Good evening, folks. We're going to start in just a second officially. If anybody is here for policy ACDC, we still have to that name. Anyways, we do have copies of ACDC that we've made as a potential language available at this point. We just photocopied it. It's on the table up there. All right.
Thank you, Evan.
So, who is it? Ashley? Good evening and welcome to SAD 52's, our 6th regular meeting. At this time, I will turn to Ashley Mishu for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Right there.
Or there.
Oh, there's one there too? Okay. Of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Let's see, this is that's communication, here's the minutes, here we go. All right, our first order of business is to act on the minutes of our 5th regular meeting for October 16th. Anybody note any errors and omissions? All right, seeing none, we'll accept those as presented. Next is, a report of the board chair, that is me. At this point, I'm just bringing a very brief message, primarily to board members and specifically subcommittee chairs. I would like to try, as we make in our communications coming out of the subcommittees, that sometimes there's a lot of information that's brought forward to our subcommittee that for some reason or another isn't accepted, isn't approved, and might never make it to the board. So if possible, actually, not if possible, please make it happen that if something comes before a subcommittee and it is not approved to move forward, we would like to know that it wasn't approved to move forward, if that makes sense. If any of the chairs have questions how to operate that, catch up with Carrie I later. Okay? That takes us to public comment. At this time, do we have any public interested in commenting this evening? We do. So, in that case,
Please tell me you have that.
yep, I do not, but give us just a quick second. For those of you who have visited us before, you know that there is a page that we read. I should know it by heart right now, but I do not. But I will have it magically in front of you momentarily. I wonder if I have it in there from the last meeting.
Sorry.
That's not an issue. I think I tossed it in the last pile of paperwork. I can't really go by here because I have to follow very official wording on this. Give me just a second, folks. Do you have one?
Is it this?
Yeah.
Is it that? Hand it right up here, boss. Oh.
Seriously, that was it?
Oh, that's the whole policy.
This is it's not exactly what you read, but it's a shortened version of the policy.
Okay. We're just going to be a little bit longer, that's all.
Yeah, sorry
All
about
right.
that.
Board meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying out the official business of the school systems. Meetings of the board are open to the public, although board meetings are not public forums. The board will provide appropriate opportunities for citizens and employees to express opinions and concerns related to the matters under consideration by the board within the guidelines set forth in Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings. Please be aware of the following ground rules for our policy. During the time set aside for public participation, the chair will be responsible for recognizing all speakers who must identify themselves as they begin talking. The chair may limit the time allotted for comments on a particular topic as well as the time for each individual to speak. In the event of a sizable audience, the chair may require persons interested in speaking to sign up so they are called on in a fair and efficient manner. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members or the superintendent only with the approval of the chair. Requests for the information or concerns that are required further research may be referred to the superintendent to be addressed at a later time. Speakers are not permitted to share gossip, make defamatory comments, or use abusive or vulgar language. A student's name is not permitted to be discussed other than by his or her own parent or guardian. In order to make an efficient use of meeting time, the board asks speakers to avoid duplication or repetition of comments. The board requests that groups or organizations be represented by designated spokespersons. No complaints or allegations will be allowed in public concerning any person employed by the school system or against particular students. These matters will not be considered in a public meeting, but will be referred through established policies and procedures. The chair has authority to stop any presentation that violates these guidelines or the privacy rights of others. Persons who disrupt the meeting may be asked to leave, and the chair may request law enforcement assistance as necessary to restore order. All right, that is a little bit longer than our normal one, but gets the point across. And I'm not going to go by the list because I believe we can handle ourselves in that regard. I will ask, for those of you who are new to us this evening, which I'm not sure if many of you are, we do have a 3-minute time limit per person speaking. And when you are called upon, I will ask that you give your full name and the town that you represent. I understand some of you might not be from our district, but still the town that you represent. That being said, anybody like to speak this evening? You first, sir. Yeah, yes, please.
I've spoken here before, so I'm aware of the customs. My name is B. Carrington. I'm from Green, Maine. I'm an alumni. I'm an educator. I'm also a transgender person in that I'm non-binary, meaning that I dress who I want, regardless of how it attributes to any gender. That means one day I'm wearing girly pants, one day I'm wearing, I don't know, jeans. That aside, I'm putting my college midterms aside as we speak in order to come here and speak on behalf of a minority that should not be further victimized. I stand here heartbroken because the district that helped shape who I am now is considering policies that would strip students like me of their basic dignity. The CDC reports that about 3% of high schoolers identify as transgender, and 40% of them claim to be bullied. This is compared to a similar report by the CDC that found that 5% of cisgender male students report being bullied, which is a 35% discrepancy, which is very large for those who can't do math. Even more alarming, 1 in 4 trans students have attempted suicide in the past year, as of 2024. 1 in 4 transgender students. That might be out of 3%, and that might be a small amount of the student body. That is a large number, and that is a non-zero number of people who are killing themselves because of policies like what we are discussing. So I would appreciate if tonight we can handle this with respect, and you treat others with dignity rather than what you heard on a news station. Moving on, these kids aren't abstract numbers, despite the amount of facts that I'm saying, despite the amount of percentages that I'm giving you. They're not numbers, they're children. They're sitting in classrooms, they're doing homework as we speak. They're driving around, probably breaking speed limits, if we're being honest. They're not your children. They're not your children. Anybody who has a trans kid would not be sitting in any seat in this room and defending what we are about to do today. And we all know that. It is very clear, and we feel it in our hearts. I don't care how much you push down that guilt or how bald you are when you do it, but they're other people's children. They're other people's children, just like me. Like I said, I'm non-binary, I am queer, I'm gay. I am a child. I mean, I'm still young, but still, I am somebody else's child. I'm standing here in front of my father as we speak. When we pass policies that ostracize them, as in trans people, but also us, people like me, we tell them that they are not safe here. And that message can be deadly. As I said, it leads to higher suicide rates. As an educator, I've seen what happens when students feel affirmed. They strive. It is that simple. When you affirm and work with children, they succeed, and that is all there is to it. I expect everybody here today to choose to make this district a place where every child, every single child, feels safe. I expect every single person in this room to leave knowing that their decisions could have helped or hindered a 3% minority of high schoolers. That makes up about 1.5% of people in America. There are more ginger people than transgender people. And it's very weird to be talking about where a transgender child or somebody who even is questioning, talking about when they should, or where they should rather, go to the bathroom. It's none of your concern. They can handle themselves, and I expect everybody to understand that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak this evening? I'm looking. Oh, please.
My name is Alex the Duke, and I want to share some statistics over trans youth specifically. Over 32 to 50% of trans teens across the world have committed or attempted suicide because they've experienced discrimination in schools. By choosing to enforce this policy, you choose to invalidate those kids' identities. This is not even bringing up the fact that it is entirely against the law. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution states that anything not explicitly stated in the Constitution is state jurisdiction. Education is not at all in the Constitution, and trying to overrule that is illegal and unconstitutional. The Maine Human Rights Act states as such when stating you cannot discriminate against anyone, no matter race, sexuality, gender, or ability. The policy up for debate is deciding whether or not it's okay to discriminate against me and those like me. I'm a trans guy. I have XX chromosomes. That does not make me a woman. I have not felt like a girl or a woman my entire life. I cut my hair for the first time in 7th grade, feeling more like myself than ever. I have been myself since coming to this district, starting testosterone and everything, socially transitioning and now medically transitioning to be more myself than before. And it's not fair to say that because certain kids are different, they do not get to do what is right for them in situations where they need to carry out a biological function such as using the bathroom or doing something that brings them joy and entertainment in doing sports. I would like you to take this into consideration when voting for the 10.3 policy change. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Susan Shaw. I'm a Turner resident, a Turner business owner, parent of 2 Levitt graduates, and I spent 11 years teaching at grade 7 school. I don't speak out very often, probably not as often as I should, but when I do, it's important. And this policy language issue that you were considering tonight is important. I'm thoroughly astonished at the idea that some individuals have the audacity, or perhaps it's just blatant hubris, to believe they have more intimate knowledge of school law and policy than the 2 highly respected law firms who were paid $10,000 by the taxpayers of Greenleads and Turner to provide policy language and guidance to the school board. That paid professional legal guidance suggested that you make no changes to policy until the courts have taken up the language interpretations and made a decision. Yet here we are. Any policy changes against legal advice that put your staff, all of your staff, in a position to decide whether to follow your policy language and break state law, or follow state law and break policy and face disciplinary action is an unacceptable option. This is not the solution that you are looking for or the solution that you need. I also served for several years as the TTA president, and I would strongly suggest if you pass any policy language that violates current state law under the Maine Human Rights Act, that each and every member of the staff, not only those under TTA, use the Whistleblower Protection Act to report such suggested school board policy language as illegal, and they can do so without fear of retaliation. I implore you not to just listen to those who speak the most and the loudest, but to the professional staff in our district and the legal professionals who are adept at school law and policy when you are making your decisions. Our staff and students deserve no less from you.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, I'm Jamie Johnson, Turner, Maine. So I no longer believe that it does any good to appeal to this board on moral, ethical, or even legal grounds. You've spent nearly $10,000 of taxpayer money on legal opinions that you've chosen to ignore. But what's even more disheartening is that the voices of your community and your students that you swore to serve no longer seem to matter. The majority of you appear so deeply aligned with national political groups like the Dinner Table PAC, Maine Policy Institute, and Parental Rights in Education that you've lost the ability to think and act independently or for this community. In fact, the exact wording for the motion that was put forth to begin discussing the policy ACDC on the agenda tonight was given to board members via email by Parental Rights in Education and even included instructions on who would make the motion and who would provide the second. Policy BCA, Board Member Ethics, states, "I will discuss the confidential business of the board only at board meetings and with authorized individuals." Clearly, you serve the interests of these political groups and not those of MSAD 52. I've said it before, and I will continue to say it again. We have way more important and pressing issues that need to be addressed than manufactured crises and political propaganda. I love and serve my community, and that is what I care about. So I'll direct my words to our students, especially those who are the most vulnerable. Our LGBTQ students, our students with disabilities, and any student who feels unseen, unsafe, or unwelcome in today's political climate. Please know this. There are people in this community who see you, who love you, who will stand beside you, and will never stop fighting to keep you safe. Thank you.
Thank you. You first.
Hi, my name is Cora Smith. I'm a resident of Turner, Maine. I'm a recent graduate from Leavitt, and through the past 2 months, I've been attending University of Maine, Farmington. In the time that I've been there, I've realized that though both areas are in Maine and a little over a half an hour apart from each other, there's so many differences. I don't believe that that's a difference in maturity or the difference between one being a high school and one being a college. I think it's a difference between priorities. At UMF, it's a community that welcomes everyone, and it's a very inclusive environment. People are allowed to identify how they want without the fear of being told that they can no longer participate in an activity. I don't understand why that's such a hard concept. The idea of including everybody when that was something we were taught in preschool and elementary school. We were told to include everybody from such a young age and that no one should be left out. From there on, that was never a hard concept for me, and I don't believe it should be for anyone. When you are speaking about limiting a student whose identity is differed from their, quote, biological sex, you are dehumanizing that person, claiming they're confused and that it's just a phase. That's completely unfair to do to anyone, especially a student that you are supposed to be supporting. This is not an issue in any of our schools or in the community, and that may sound familiar, and that's because I've said that at multiple different meetings. My friends have said that as well. With this, I hope that you're able to truly consider the input that you're receiving from people who are impacted and were impacted by these decisions, rather than continuing to allow our words to go in one ear and out the other.
Thank you.
I'm Judith Lashman from Green, former librarian here at Leavitt, former TTA president, spent a lot of time working with marginalized and diverse students. I know a lot of this has been said before and that we try and limit things, but I believe that these are important points that need to keep being made. I believe strongly in the values of fairness, respect, and in the well-being of all students in our district. I want to speak directly to the proposed policy ACDC that would recognize only biological males and biological females in all aspects of our schools. Not only does this policy violate the Maine Human Rights Act, but it also is a solution to a problem that as of now does not exist. I ask you to pause and reconsider. You have requested and heard legal opinions from 2 different law firms, both advising that the district wait to see how the courts will ultimately reconcile the Maine Human Rights Act with the recent federal interpretation of Title IX under the Trump administration. This important advice that you are choosing to ignore by creating policy ACDC would open the district to significant legal risk and potential lawsuits. The financial cost that the district has already expended to the tune of almost $10,000 will also be compounded by the danger and risk you're creating for our students, as well as the potential burden you are putting on our staff to implement an impossible policy. Policy BBA, School Board Powers and Responsibilities, clearly states the board, functioning within the framework of laws, court decisions, attorney general's opinions, and similar mandates from the state and national levels of government, and recognizing the authority of the state, fulfills its mission to the governing body of a political subdivision by acting as follows, and then it lists the duties of the board. It seems to me that our own policy requires you to follow the law. The president's interpretation of Title IX is not law. That is what the courts will be deciding, and by jumping the gun and putting in policy ACDC now, you will be putting our district at risk legally. I'm also deeply concerned about the real-life consequences this policy could have on our students and staff, especially those who are gender diverse and already face significant challenges, including higher risk for mental health struggles and discrimination. We know that students who are made to feel marginalized, excluded, or invalidated suffer both academically and emotionally. Policy ACDC could potentially increase the bullying and harassment that these students experience, as well as making them feel as though they are not part of the school community. As board members, it is your responsibility to protect and support every student, not to make their lives more difficult. Finally, I urge you to ask yourselves whether this policy reflects the true purpose of the school board. Schools should be places of learning, growth, and inclusion, not political platforms for personal agendas. The board's role is to make decisions that benefit all students, not to impose personal beliefs that may not be in line with the best interests of those you are sworn to serve. I urge you to think about what's best for our students, not just today, but in the long term. Please reconsider this policy, listen to the legal counsel you've received, and most importantly, put the needs of our students above your own personal agendas.
Thank you. Please, sir.
Chris Pillsbury, Turner, Maine. I addressed you guys earlier in the year. Real world example, not statistics. My daughter bullied 3 times by a trans student in the female bathroom while she was dealing with her period. A young man climbs over the stall and says, "Get out," so they can smoke pot and vape. The problems that happen in these restrooms to my daughter means that the next time I am not going and having a civil conversation, I'm hiring a lawyer and I'm suing. My daughter will not be sexually assaulted in these bathrooms again. Understood? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Crystal Nicholas of Green. The proposed policy ACDC is prohibited under the Maine Human Rights Act, as this act acknowledges that policies, even anti-discrimination ones, cannot be used in a way that creates a new disparate impact on another protected group. The courts have repeatedly struck down attempts, including executive orders, that redefine sex to mean anything other than biological sex in reference to Title IX. Title IX clearly states that all females in educational opportunities must have these protections in place. An educational unit may not create or dissolve protections for some groups of biological females, but not others. Please pass the well-worded policy ACAE, which protects all biological females' rights to a level playing field in private spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? In the back, please.
Michelle Hathaway, I'm a resident of Turner, educator and parent of a student that attends Love High School. Despite my opinion and belief that all students should be accepted, welcomed, and included, beside my belief that connection and involvement is critical to engagement and success, despite my dismay at the time allocated to this topic, I cannot fathom how or why we are considering policy directly against the opinion of now 2 attorneys that we have paid for. We have looked to the expertise of attorneys on this subject, and they've advised that we not move forward. This is against the Maine human rights and against current MPA guidelines. If we move forward with this, how do you force staff to violate Maine state law? What's the opinion of our liability insurance carrier if we open this up? How do we determine sports based on sex? So is football a female sport? Is football a male sport? Are we going to prohibit the current females playing football in this district from playing? Have we considered
this, we are acting against what people who specialize in law and interpretation of current law are telling us what to do. And then by doing that, we are taking on a whole lot of liability that we are not prepared for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak this evening? In the far back right, please.
It's okay.
I think nothing is not an My name is Jamie Cole. I'm a resident of Turner, and I'm the mom of 3 in this district. I'm new to these meetings. This is my first time, and what really piqued my interest was my 6th daughter, my oldest daughter, Harper, is the only current female player on the Trip Middle School football team. With the wording of your proposed changes, I fear that she would not be granted the right to play football. She has worked hard to make a spot for herself on this team. She's worked her way up to a starting defensive position, and she loves it. I've watched my daughter thrive in this program. I have listened to coaches sing her praises. I have been told she's one of the top 5 defensive players on the team and one of the best tacklers on the team as well. She's phenomenal, and she deserves to play football. And with the wording of your proposed changes, I'm terrified that I will have to tell her, I've told you your whole life you can do anything you want. And I'm terrified that this will make it so I don't get to tell my daughter that. I urge you to take the advice of the legal counsel that you sought out and put a pause on this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, my name's
Do
Alan.
you mind standing up, please, like everybody else? Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Alan Sarvinas. I'm glad to see Board Director McLean healthy. I haven't been here since he's been back. I am a state organizer for Parents' Rights in Education. I also work with Maine Education Initiative. My main reason to be here tonight is to urge you to remember that the private sector has always provided solutions and innovation that has best progressed industry and society, and that's why we urge you to work with organizations like the Maine Education Initiative. And what you did, I don't believe you'd even be here tonight. For example, I've worked across the state for 6 years. Any type of board meeting, ad hoc, summertime committee meeting, I've put in all the work done it, so you understand I'm not taking cheap shots. So it wasn't less than a year ago, the same law firms were advising school boards to accept the executive action by the previous administration and implement the 2024 Title IX revision, while it was in litigation. And now less than a year later, they're advising you to wait on litigation, and executive action isn't law. I sincerely don't know of another example that is so hypocritical as that coming from a legal attorney. And I'm asking you tonight to understand that this has nothing to do with any about that, except fairness, equality, and safety for all students. Sex is in the Maine Human Rights Act. Sex is a biological, immutable characteristic, and you're protecting all students equally. Not one single student or parent should fear their child. This may be the day my child has to enter into a private space with another sex. It shouldn't even be crossing their mind. You have a female bathroom, male bathroom, and a bathroom for those who doesn't want to identify you. It's been simple for 5 years. Actually, 3 years ago, I talked with an industrial company down south in southern Maine and said they could make this happen immediately. But nobody wants to get to the actual solution. You just want to fight whether one thing or another. But I'm telling you, if you open yourself up more to the open market, free market, that you're going to find and hear things that you haven't been hearing in this closed market that the Maine Department of Education has created. So I urge you to vote in favor of the policy tonight. Obviously, I sent in policy ACAE. I don't know why, again, Drummond Woodson would give you a policy, or RSU 73 a policy, stating and citing an executive order, when they're telling you executive order is not law. So what's the policy based on? Not law or law? So again, I urge you to pass a policy tonight to protect girls' sports and spaces based on fairness, equity, and safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else this evening? Please, over on the right.
Hello, I am August Sumner, representing Turner, Maine. I am a trans student at Levitt. I moved to this town to be in a safe environment, and not allowing me and other students like me to use the restroom and play sports is beyond dehumanizing. I am human. I have bodily functions. All students, no matter the gender they identify as, should be able to use the restroom. In Levitt High School, we're always encouraged to participate. Not allowing us, as trans students, to play sports we love and are encouraged to be in is also dehumanizing. Again, I am a person, just like you all. If I do not feel safe in my learning environment, I don't know how I am expected to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak this evening? Just so for those who, this is the first time here with us, this is the only time for public communication, so. Not seeing any. Oh, one last time. Jimmy, over there, please.
Screaming Child leads. Have any of you guys done any research on Chloe Cole? I know it's about a year ago I gave the board a bunch of people to look into. If you don't know who she is, you shouldn't even be making these decisions because you don't know the whole other side of the story. You know, I feel for anybody that feels they feel indifferent in their body or their sexuality or anything like that. We're all human beings, and just because we're on one side or the other doesn't mean that we don't care about anybody else, you know? But if you don't know who she is and the people like her, like I said, you shouldn't be making these decisions because these are real people, and she's actually bringing a case that's probably going to go to the Supreme Court. And I hope it does, and when it does, and if her case is validated, these doctors and these administrators and everybody that told her she needed to affirm this stuff are going to be held liable for the pain they put this girl through, you know? So, you know what? Under God we trust. Our Constitution is riddled in inalienable rights that are from God, our Creator, whoever that may be, okay? So you're all going to have to meet your Maker someday. It ain't going to be me that changes your mind. It ain't going to be anything. God says in the Bible, you do not hurt the children. Children cannot consent. They can't consent. The adults do for them. They don't say, oh, well, I'm this, so I get to use whatever restroom I want. Well, how does that work? So we have to relinquish all of our rights and our children's rights because somebody feels something, so you're a protected class and you can just willy-nilly do what you want? You know? Well, that ain't how it works here, okay? Or maybe it does, it shouldn't, okay? You all supposed to obey laws. You know, when you talk about your ethic policy, your ethics, is it ethical, when you guys are debating this stuff, you guys are debating it, right? You're back and forth debating it. If Kyle over there is sitting here text messaging somebody in the audience who's giving them things to say and everything while this is all going on, is that ethical or not? You would frown on somebody doing that, right? Because this happened last year while we were going through the other policies. So when people come up here and holier than thou, ethical, whatever else, and just last year, Peter, I turned to the audience, Bree made a statement and said, no, you gotta talk to the board, and you stopped me and made me look at you. You didn't stop Jamie when she did this, okay? So it's one or the other. You know what I mean? I've been shut down for talking when I have a First Amendment violation. You know, but I ain't gonna cause our taxpayers any more harm. All right? You know, and I don't come here and berate you guys and give you all kinds of problems. I am not transphobe. I am not homophobe. I ain't nothing like that. Okay? My kids should feel protected. This poor man's daughter? So how's that going? What did the school do? Did you guys know about that? What happened to you? I'm sorry, sir. You know? There's a lot more to this than just, you know, and kids don't, oh, I get to do this, I get to do that, yes, it's my right. No, I go into McDonald's that has men, women bathrooms. You know? It's just, the kids can't consent. When you're old enough to consent, you do what you want. And would you do what you want?
Thank you, Jim. Please, miss.
I'm Jolene Randall and from Green, and just very, very short. I hope you make a decision not based on fear of repercussions from the community. I hope you make your decision based on what's right for children, and also utilizing the information that you received from the lawyers. And then I have just one question. I used to teach in the district. I haven't been in our district for 8 years. And it was maybe 10 years ago when this happened, but at the, I'm so sorry, that's okay. I'm so sorry, that's all right. At the middle school, 10 years ago, we were going through this same kind of thing with students at our middle school, at Tripp Middle School. And one of the things that came about as a change was that bathrooms were made unisex. And it was single stall bathrooms. And I keep hearing the bathrooms being brought up. So have we considered making our bathrooms more safe for everyone? And it's just a thought, but that was 8 to 10 years ago, because I haven't been here for 8 years. So that was a long time ago that we made changes at Tripp Middle School. So just a thought.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Seeing none, normally we don't permit a second, but did you have anything else you?
I just had a question. I wanted to know if we're allowed to mention board members by name.
No.
Okay, I thought so.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, folks. Actually, I don't know if that's the page.
I'll make a note.
I'm not sure. Employees we can. Board members, I don't know.
But I think we can.
Yeah, I take that back. Employees, absolutely not. Students, absolutely not. There's some discussion, board members might be fair game. So, we're not sure. We think so. We're starting to think we may be fair game.
And not members of the public.
And not members of the public, just,
All right, well, that may need to be clarified.
we're fair game. So, anyways. All right, public comment, communications. I believe I have one. We have a donation, Town of Green, donation to Green Central School from the Auburn Assembly 262 Social Order of, what's that?
Bosant?
Basant?
Bosant? I don't know, it's not one I'm familiar with.
Contrary to Steve, my French blood is not coming out here. Basant? I don't know. Anyways, sorry. It is a $300 to put towards student backpack program at Green Central School. Well, we thank the 262 Special Order of something. All right. I believe that's all my communications. So that leaves to superintendent communications.
Yes, so we have a resignation from Leeds Central School, Christina Spia, teacher, grades 3-4. She will be moving to a different district in after Christmas time. And Jenny Meisner, food service assistant at the high school. And then we've added subs basically across the district, 2 teacher subs and 1 student custodian sub. So that's something that the maintenance department's been working on to bring our students in to give them opportunities to work. And so we have the first student doing that. So we're very excited.
That takes us to adjustments to the agenda, which we have no adjustments to make other than what have already been made and presented. And I believe the agenda up there has the most current.
Correct. Do you want to make the correction?
Oh,
with that
yes.
language?
We have a
So
word we need to change.
Item 2.3. 10.3, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say 10.3 we already
Yeah,
passed.
10.3.
10.3. Yeah, it is not discussion and consideration of policy committee first reading acceptance. It's first reading and
Acknowledgement.
acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Clarify a little bit, it takes 2 readings normally for a policy to make it through the board, except in extreme circumstances, so there was just a misprint there. So, that being said, that takes us to committee reports, and first up is the Finance Committee.
Yeah. We did meet this morning. The first thing we reviewed was the 5-year warrant report that Carrie and Gabby have been working on. That's that large file that shows what the budget to actual was for the past 5 years. And we just discussed if there were any changes we wanted to that. One thing was that we're going to be adding is the change in local percentage responsibility year over year. So in that report, we'll be able to see what the change to local was for 5 years as well. And then Carrie had asked during the budget process, her and Gabby get a lot of information from staff that kind of, they put the budget together and it's a really large budget, and then her and Gabby go through and they shift it down, they take everything out to what they present to us as the initial budget. She asked if we wanted to see more of that process, and we declined. We thought the initial budget was fine unless there's anyone else that wants to give feedback or does want to see it. And then we discussed the preliminary audit update. So they did, Gabby was explaining that they did find there were some findings, it's referred to in the student accounts, reconciliations not matching. So Gabby's been going around and she plans to meet with all the secretaries at the schools to kind of retrain and just make sure that procedure and that process is known so those errors get corrected. And Carrie will be meeting with the principals to just reiterate what that, how to fix that and be more aware of that. And she's expecting, is it the end of November, the initial report, but no news on when the final one will be issued. We then looked at the minimum wage increase, which is going to impact the daily sub rates. Not a lot, but it goes into effect on January 1st, so those rates will all be increased slightly. And then subcontracting for open facility positions. Is there one student hired?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's one student that's been hired so far, and I think there's another one in the works. So those have been posted for students that want to work. Gabby has talked with a couple companies for subcontractors, and it hasn't worked out based on what they want to do versus the needs of the district. So she's going to keep, looking at what options there are for those open positions, but no solution yet. And then we discussed the RFQ that will be coming in the pipeline for the architect. That's going on in PTB. I don't know how much is PTB going to touch on that? Probably more detail. So we just talked about it'll go out for a price on just to get the RFQ and some basic consulting, and then from there we'll have to either go out to bid depending on the size of the work that we'll be needing.
Thank you very much. Does anybody any questions for the Finance Committee and Ashley? I'm not seeing any, so thank you very much. That takes us to Alex and PTB.
Dave was here we met tonight. Dave was here to talk more about our capital planning plans as we move forward to start, accomplishing some of these other projects. We did touch on the RFQ process. We're going to be moving forward looking for a firm that has potentially, building architecture specialty plus landscaping for potential field upgrades, because one of the issues, or one of the topics we also touched on was our sports fields in district are in pretty rough shape, have probably faced some budget cuts over previous decades and whatnot, but some are, in need of some pretty significant work that's beyond Dave and his crew. So that will be part of the RFQ process. Also, we had talked last year a little bit about the TES vestibule. It's the only school that does not have a double entry setup. So when you go into the entrance, you're in the school. It's a safety concern for obvious reasons. And there's also an issue with the office being a little bit crowded for the number of adults and kids that are often in and out of the space. So that's also going to be added into the potential work that the architect firm will look like. So we're looking to get all range of options for addressing that issue. Also, part of it will be bringing central office up into ADA compliance. As of right now, you can get to one floor of the building with a ramp, but there's no access to the bottom floor. There's also a bathroom on the bottom floor, so again, hopefully a firm can provide us with multiple options there. And we talked about, the administration office is in the process of trying to get a grant for the generator setup at the high school. And there's some legwork to be done on retroactively accepting the Androscoggin County Hazard Mitigation Plan. So there's, like I said, there's all kinds of legwork that's going on to see if we can get the potential generator paid for by a grant. Dave also updated us on the TPS water. They've hooked up the second well. It's running at 13 gallons a minute, which is 3 times better than the old well, so that's good. They did have another failed test for coliform, which you're going to have to retest this coming week. That was out of the old well. So that's one little hiccup, but he was happy with the progress there. The storage tank plans are almost ready and should be ready by mid-November to go out to bid in December for hopefully work being done in the springtime. And Jim was back with us for a transportation update. He's got one driver who's actually leaving a position, but has one extra driver that's going to fill it. He has a transportation specialist who's going to get their license tomorrow, which will get us kind of back to the +1 good spot. And as far as we can tell, route cancellations are way down.
But I'm going to verify that data.
Yes, we're verifying.
It's on my list.
We're in a good spot in transportation.
Does anybody have any questions for Alex or PTB committee? I am not seeing any. All right, so we'll move on to policy committee. Crystal.
Yes, we did not meet this evening, but I do have a couple things. We're a little busy. So on the consent agenda for tonight, there's JKAA, JKAAR, and IHBAC. Those were all updates that I went over last time that were law changes, but I noticed that it says first reading and acceptance of. Do we need to change that as well on both of those, 8.3 and 8.4?
Bless you.
And there will be the CDC, I'm just saying that because that's just what we've been calling it, at the, well, somewhere in the middle here. And then within our actual committee, hold on, I got a little mess over here. Ashley's brought forth a couple of things. Is this like what you would like to hear? Like, because I feel like you want to hear like the things that we have been talking about. They may not have gotten here this point yet.
More along the lines of like, if it's coming and it's going to be presented, it's not a big deal, but it's good to keep us in the loop. If something is decided that we're not going to proceed forward with it in your subcommittee, and it didn't come from the board, like somebody brought it to you, or then it would be good for us to know that there was a policy change presented that you decided not to move forward with.
Okay. Perhaps not changes, but I'm just going to say them anyway, just so that they are out in the open. One of them was to review kind of our food service and options for kids. I think we've all kind of have heard about it. So that will be coming up at some point. That's policy JL, which is wellness policy, where Teresa and I were kind of looking for. Also revisiting the bus stops. There's still some question about how PTB relied on the policy from the policy committee and maybe relooking at our policy. And then credits for student reps for the school board and looking into that and seeing where that might fall for our students. And then Anthony had sent to me at the beginning of the year to relook at ILD, which is surrounding our surveys and making that more of an opt-in. I went through the presentation by Vicki Wiegman, which was last year, just to kind of, I wasn't actually at that meeting, so just to refresh myself with that. And that's kind of just been in a holding pattern, just dealing with ACDC. We've only had 2 meetings, by the way, so it's, So between that and then at our next meeting, we were hoping to do KF, KFE 2 and 3, which is facilities use with Dave Coburn, and pest management, which is ECB. But all of that can change on the outcome of tonight and ACDC and whatever we decide there.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Thank you for the information. Does anybody have any questions for Crystal or the policy committee?
I would just like to say, depending on this, the facility use was a request from community members, so I would really strongly urge the policy committee to not put that off, even depending on, just because that has been, I just want to say that out loud, that those folks have been very patient, and I think making them wait longer would be difficult, so.
No, I think that's an understood move. Yeah, there was, all right. That takes us to the curriculum committee, which I agree, but we have not met, but I am assured that the next curriculum committee meeting will take place now that we have everything heading in the right direction at Turner Primary School.
Correct.
So hopefully curriculum will be under discussion within a month.
Mm-hmm.
That takes us to, well, I guess I'll ask, do you have anything to report? Yeah, no, she's all set. All right, we'll take it.
Is that then?
Yeah,
So the next meeting is the 13th.
whatever the next.
I'd have to look at, I don't have it written in front of me.
The 13th is
Of,
November
November.
13th.
That's not what we were thinking.
yeah, I don't,
Well,
that's
we
not,
will confirm that.
I was going to say, that's not what I had on my calendar, but we will make sure that everybody's
It was
clear.
supposed to be tonight, I think, so it should be 2 weeks ago.
No curriculum,
It would be December 4th then.
Yes,
Four.
yes, December 4th.
because we only have one meeting.
Because
next-
the 13th is going to be
Policy.
You're right.
policy and, yeah, for the 13th is policy.
You can meet on Thanksgiving.
No.
That's up to the subcommittee itself. At the beginning of this whole tenure of mine, I said, you guys can figure it out. So if you want to meet on Thanksgiving,
I
go
missed
for
you
it.
guys,
I will make sure the next agenda clearly states when the meeting is.
Okay.
because we're all lost.
Yeah.
I know.
All right. Administrator reports. Mr. Parker is not, Principal Parker is not here, but we do have his report in front of us. If anybody has any questions on his report, I'm sure Carrie can at least
I
attempt.
might be able to answer them.
If not, we wish everything good there. Don't see anything, so we'll just move past that one.
Oh,
Does anybody on the board have any questions on his report? Do we need a quick second? See papers moving, but I think we're all content. All right, that takes us to Turner Elementary School, I believe. Yes, Principal Conway, welcome.
Does anyone have any questions about my report?
3 pages this time, it's a good one.
Thank you.
I made her put pictures in.
Yeah. We had a school-wide competition on pine trees. It was like Pine Tree Present. It was sponsored by sponsored by the Department of Ed, but then really sponsored by our Parent-Teacher Association, because the Department of Ed was like, your winning one can go into the state competition, which is what we did, but our PTC provided some prizes from Books A Million for our first, second, and third place winners, which was nice. And the kids, I didn't put that picture in, but the kids who won, we thought it would be like one student for each like drawing that they did. That's a front and back, and it was 3 kids who all like won together, so we had to, it was a gift card, we had to adjust the price a little bit because the bag was if I wanted to, but it was $25, so it was a hard split. The only other thing I wanted to highlight was that time that we've had on Wednesday, so that extra hour that was added in, and just to thank this whole group for it. For us, it's been so helpful. We use it, sometimes we're doing more professional development, and I've heard a lot of comments from staff about how much professional development we've been able to do this year with everyone, because I think before we do professional development during staff meetings, but there's so many things to cover in staff meetings that we weren't able to get to everything that we wanted, but then on top of it, our ed techs don't go to staff meetings. And they were some of the people that we really wanted the professional development for. But then the other piece of it, when we're not using it for professional development, we use it for, we call it inclusion teaming. But it's really when at grade level, all the members of grade level work together and go through their student data, which we can get through the interreading, because it's all right there online. The illustrative math that we have, because we get those scores, they're live. And then we work on flexible groups, so moving students to different small groups. So if we have a group of students, and we always do, who might need a little extra help or who could be pushed a little bit harder, we can regroup them, and we have all that time, not only with all the teachers, but also with the ed techs who would be taking some of those students and working with them in small groups. So if they're struggling with area or what it might be, they'll get that instruction from the teacher. They work together, they get whatever it might be to support the students, and then they come up with a game plan for the next 2 weeks. And just going into classrooms, it's made a huge difference. It's like that 1 hour, but it makes just, it's incredible, just kind of seeing what kids are doing and the way that they're talking about their learning now. So, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We have a question?
Oh, yeah. No, it just looks like October referrals are down compared to last October. I don't know if that's something you're feeling or that's just an
Definitely feel it, for sure. I think the other part, going back to the PD too, I think sometimes we also get over, like, so when students know what they're doing, there's less behaviors in the classroom too. But then also just the documentation in the professional development with like, okay, these are some of our classroom management or like behavior management strategies. So with all of that, I think it also helps with behavior, because the goal is to catch kids before they do something instead of having them have to be written up or make that mistake or whatever. So that's been, yeah, hopefully it sticks.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Turner Primary School? Oh, Turner Elementary School, sorry. All right, seeing none, thank you very much. All right. That takes us to student representative report. So, gentlemen, what do we have coming from your direction today?
So we have a survey out for all the students to figure out like what's going good, what are some like policies that we can bring up to the school board, like the student council, like to then possibly bring to the school board. And overall, the data we've gotten, which is a small pool, most people love the new phone mandate. They agree that it is going well. It's helping with focus and like concentration in class. Also, the extended HBT is also good because it allows them to focus on their studies. Also, students go to musical. The crew just started rehearsals that way as they're prepping for December 12th and 13th for the show dates. Some HBTs are celebrating Halloween, getting the festive spirit with like small parties to like build a bit of community. English 3 classes are reading The Glass Castle, which is a memoir by Janet Walls. I had to say overall the school year is going very well.
The only bit that I have to report is that I've heard there is works from a few students that a debate team is going to be attempted to form. While I'm not sure all of the fine detail on it, I know that there is a certain amount of drive for this to be made, and that I believe that there is a teacher that is going to be on board with it, and that's about it.
And to conclude, one of the students from the survey had a question for you guys. What are your favorite type of penguins?
What's your favorite type of penguin?
I have to admit, I don't know many penguins, so.
We'll have to get back to you.
I'll go with Emperor.
Emperor. He
Yeah,
likes,
gotta
he
be
likes the
it.
big ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the one with the little thing on the head, whatever it's called there.
Yeah. I know you just said it was like a small sample size, but I'm really intrigued by the students' approval of the cell phone policy.
Yeah.
Like how, like, is that like a student council statement or like?
So it's all this, so it was sent out, so far I know that the freshman, junior and senior class advisor has sent it out into the Google Classroom for student feedback. And I have it on a spreadsheet and I've seen like 9 comments on that they enjoy, that they like it. they also, one person noticed that the concentration in the class are improving.
Well, that's great to hear.
That's what we hoped. Anybody else have any? And thank you, gentlemen, that was an
Nice job.
excellent report.
Yeah, really good job.
And I do want to emphasize, because just so you feel comfortable, in any of our discussions up here, you are welcome to ask questions at any time. Please feel free, of course, as we move on through the evening. That leads us to superintendent report.
Yep, so just a couple things. I'll just provide on the audit that Ashley said, there's 2 issues that are going to delay us getting this. It seems like this is like every year, though, that it's delayed, but there's new reasons this year. So the Office of Budget Management, which provides the guidance, has been delayed in providing it, and now with the shutdown, it'll get delayed more. So some of it is the federal government piece. So it's not anything that we'll get a draft report, certainly, and we've got information already that will provide us guidance that we can act on, but nothing that we can present to the board in that way. Curriculum Committee is going to start at their next regular scheduled meeting. The FY27 budget process is starting next Thursday. Have our first meeting with the directors and principals to provide a timeline, provide them with some guidance, and get that going. So buckle up. By the time you guys see it, we will have done, Gabby and I will have already, I don't know.
We will have done things.
We will have done a lot of things. So that is kicking off. Negotiations, I just noticed the fabulous 3 are right there. Alex, Crystal, and Kyle, you guys are awesome. They're gonna join me in negotiations this year. We start Monday. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great, right? So so I wanna thank you guys. This is a very time-intensive process, but I'll just make reference briefly. The last time we did negotiations, we ended up with a really good relationship with the association, and so I have full confidence that we'll continue with that. So our first meeting on Monday is just sort of our own internal meeting, training, developing some guidelines, and I think the goal for me with them is to bring to you all for an executive session on November 13th, our very first executive session regarding negotiations, to sort of get some guidance on what that's going to look like. So that's kicking off. So things are starting to really start cooking. And then on the consent agenda, a couple things. So there are 2 updated job descriptions. I'll just make note that the athletic director at Tripp Middle School is a stipend position. It's not a full-time position. The high school is the only one that's got a full-time position. And then we are recommending the deletion of 2. They're not positions that we have anymore, so we just want to pull them off the staff website. And then in terms of just a little bit more information around the policies, just in case you don't remember, they're pretty much determined by legal changes. The restraint policy the legal changes were, from the school perspective, positive, gives us a little more flexibility to act a little quicker and prevent maybe more significant harm or damage. So some restrictions have been released a little bit. And with Child Find, that has everything to do with us picking up the pre-K students and sort of the changes that we have to do in terms of our obligations to find any 3- and 4-year-olds who may be in need of services and make sure that the district provides them. So I just wanted to make sure that you had that information, because that's all consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Carrie?
Yep.
Oh,
5:30 Monday?
5:30, 7:30. I will send a reminder tomorrow.
Anyone else have any questions for Carrie?
Do you want a calendar invite?
I love it.
Consider it done.
Right. Not seeing any. That takes us to the consent agenda this evening, folks. We've all heard about it. Now it's in front of us. Does anybody wish to pull anything out of the consent agenda to be addressed individually? Seeing anything on either side of me. So with that, we will go with the consent agenda, and I get to read it. All right. Items to be acted on collectively unless a board member asks that a specific item be acted upon individually. 8.1, review and adoption of superintendent recommended of job descriptions. 8.1.1, maintenance worker 2. 8.1.2, athletic director at Tripp Middle School. Consent agenda 8.2, review and adoption of superintendent recommended deletion of job descriptions 8.2.1, adult education, vocational education. 8.2.2, office support assistant in adult education. 8.3, consideration of policy committee recommended first reading and acceptance.
Acknowledgement.
An
We
acknowledgement.
messed up that language.
Oh,
sorry.
that's right.
Yeah,
Well,
acknowledgement.
we get it
not
right over
acceptance.
there, but not in my
Yeah,
will.
we'll get it right.
An acknowledgement of revised policy JKAA, use of physical restraint and seclusion and regulations. JKAAR, procedures on physical restraint and seclusions. Wasn't that first reading last time?
No, she just told you about it last time. We didn't do first reading last time.
Oh, we just heard about it?
Yeah, you just
Okay.
heard about it.
Okay. 8.4, consideration of policy committee recommended first reading and acceptance of revised policy.
Acknowledgement.
Well, I read what's in front of
I
me.
know, I'm sorry.
An acknowledgement of revised policy IHBAC child find policy.
I make a motion.
We have a motion from Bree, we got one from Crystal, she beat you, it was this close. All those in favor? Looks unanimous.
You guys are allowed to vote, just
Yes.
so you know.
And all those opposed?
You weren't, you didn't oppose it. you
No,
were just
I was
raising
saying, raise your hand if you're opposed, sorry. Yeah, I opposed all that. All right, so the motion passes. Old business, we have none. So that brings us to our host for the evening. Principal Shaw.
Sticking with tradition, I had this going before we started.
I saw it.
She saw it, it was real. It's not currently, well, we're working on it, let's pass this out. I did bring hard copies of my slides, you can have them.
Here, Evan, give it to me so you can keep messing around with it.
I'll keep messing around with it.
Okay.
He can do it, this is, you know, his
Oh.
school, his school
All
won't
right.
let him down.
All right.
Oh, no, probably will. Here we go.
I'm gonna send all those back. He's gonna have to give me extras. What the heck? You have the puck? What?
Elementary school. You know, Evan, the elementary school is a really nice TV.
Where's the puck?
Watch it there, buddy. Those are expensive.
Okay,
She can just touch her TV and it works, she doesn't need a remote.
that was fun. That was fun at TES, man.
I tried using it the other day and I couldn't even get, I wanted to show everyone, so I was like, all the keys at the same time.
It's like on those shows like NCIS or something where they start doing that. It was fun.
Hey!
Yay! Good job.
All right, so I want to just throw some stuff out as we get into the start of school, and I know the guys mentioned a couple of them, and I'll speak to that as well, but I want to throw some pictures up of stuff that's going on. Pretty typical stuff. We had fluorescent night at one of our football games, so everybody came dressed as highlighters. And this picture here in the middle, if you can't see it, we have a young man holding what is a really large, like, bolt from VIW, and they're testing out the impact on a watermelon down here, and then they try it with a helmet on. They're talking about PPI with VIW, and I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. And then over here we had some young ladies that are again working on a project with a couple of reps from VIW where they're trying to figure out how many, I think those are golf balls they can put into a piece of tin foil and float it in a bowl. And then the last one, we had some students out doing some studies of forestry practices in Leeds the other day. It was a great day to be outside and working with some local foresters and seeing how that works. So just in general, demographic information for you. Our enrollment this year is 596, with our ninth grade class being 182. That's held steady as the year has started off. Our senior class is at 122, so when our seniors graduate in June, and our 7th grade class that is about 180 also comes in next year, our numbers will jump once again. So we're looking at a pretty significant increase in student population over the next few years, with about 23% of our students receiving special education services and a little over 30% being identified as economically disadvantaged. Lots of activity going on. The picture of the football game was students at homecoming. A lot of action around here that day. We've had a lot of community service projects going on. There's another picture of the kids out doing some forestry action last week. We have some float, one of the floats from homecoming. The theme was decades. I now am old because the 2000s was a decade. They did as one of the floats. But I think it was the 1950s float that won, so that was good. JMG Career College Fair, we do that every year. That's coming up again here in a couple weeks. Actually, it's maybe next week. It's the 7th, so next week. We have 40-ish vendors that are going to be coming, all branches of the military, colleges, and some direct hire companies will be here. So students get a great opportunity to go in and meet with those folks, and all of the kids in the building will have an opportunity to go check it out. So a lot of planning and preparation goes in on the part of the JMG folks, and Ms. Kutchuk is over there to pull this off. Fall dance is coming up on the 14th. Student-led conferences are on the 18th. As was mentioned, we got Suzuko the Musical coming up in December. We had students doing the fall NWEA, both 9th and 10th graders who are doing that. We got a craft fair on November 8th, so Saturday. And I mentioned BIW. Ms. Bochese is connected with some outreach from BIW. They've been coming in for the last several weeks, a couple days a week, to work with JMG students as well as some of our other STEM kids, talking about BIW, but just industry in general. So they've got a pretty good picture of what that looks like and opportunities that exist for students right out of high school. And I think it's been pretty well received. What I did put up there was a picture of me standing on the step ladder dropping a bolt on a watermelon. I missed, so I had to do it again. But it's just been a good opportunity for kids to get some exposure to some real life action. We've also had a rep from Colby who's been in a few times. She worked with the senior English classes on developing their senior essays, and she's worked with a group of students on filling out the Common App. So that's been a lot of good stuff that's going on with Colby. That's been a good connection. A young lady that I've known for a long time by the name of Hannah Hartnett has been coming in to help us out. So that's been really good. Just some general picture of what's going on. I got a couple more float pictures up there, and this is a group of students that are in working with BIW. So they've been working on the library. The intent was to work in Angela's room. It's a little tight in there for the number of students that are actually participating, so we moved it to the library, and it's been very, very well attended, and kids have been doing a great job. So we have 3 school goals that we set for the year. The first one is to build a positive, or continue to build a positive school climate and improve relationships between students, staff and students, staff and staff, and the community at large. Second goal is, by the end of the school year, have developed all curriculum materials and content area teams will have created and implemented common assessments. That's specifically referencing a couple of things. One of them is the work that was done by the board and committees last year to adopt math, health and PE, and what's the other one? BPA curriculum. And so as those curriculum were adopted, we now need to develop the materials to go with them. So that's the middle one. And then number 3, by the end of the school year, have developed, implemented, updated, and improved protocols for identifying and working with students in our multi-tiered system of support. You've heard that language mentioned several times. It's a matter of being able to work with students who need intervention and working with them at the lowest level possible to help them prevent from getting further up into the more complex supports. So the first goal, it revolves around 9th graders involving the BAR program. This is our 3rd year of our BAR grant, and we are in full implementation stage with the 9th graders. We have 3 9th grade teams, so we have maximized the number of students that share a common group of teachers. That doesn't work so well as students get older because their course load diversifies. So what we're doing is what I'm going to call bar-ish with 10, 11, and 12. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But that has gone really well. And as Kristen mentioned, the time on Wednesdays, we've been able to utilize that time on Wednesdays to have conversations around students and student progress in our grade level bar for 9th graders and bar-like groups for 10, 11, and 12. I-time activities are associated with the bar program, work with students to goal setting, building resilience when it comes to problem solving, typically working on complex academic tasks. Those are happening with all 9th graders, and we are working on a schedule to do that periodically in HPTs with all grade levels. Utilizing our HPT grade level leaders to review and implement HPT expectations and activities. Continuing to work and streamline our Hive Week. Hive Week's gone great. It's been awesome. We're going to continue to do that, looking at ways in which we can do it in such a way that we don't necessarily have a group of students that are doing the same thing for 4 days in a row. Like that's a long time for some of these activities. Some of them they don't need 4 days. So I think what we're going to have come June is a little bit of a hybrid activity in which we have some that are 4 days, we have some that are 2 days. We'll pair up those ones that are 2 days, so some kids are doing something for 2 days and then something else for 2 days. I think it's going to work pretty well, and we started that planning of that at our October workshop day. Review plans and expectations for conference days, open house. We started this when school started. We did open house a little bit differently. Historically, we had parents come in and they did a schedule and had gone from class to class and all over the building. And that works well for a number of things. What it doesn't work well for is people who can't be here right at 6 o'clock when open house starts. So it was more really open house, like open season. We started in the auditorium at 6 o'clock, but after that, folks were able to mill around and get where they needed to go. And we got good positive reviews on that, so I see no reason why we wouldn't do that again next year. We are continuing to look into a job shadow / college visit program for 12th graders. The logistics of such a thing are proving to be a little more complex than we had initially thought, so we're continuing to look into it. We're hoping to get some traction on that. And our last one was around implementing district cell phone policy. And I was glad to hear William mention that today. I've noticed the same things as I've been around the building, so thank you for that. Let's see, next one up. Specifically around HPT, it's our advisor program. We've been doing it since I think the new building opened in 2000 or 99, I guess 99. The goal was pretty straightforward, and I think it's still pretty straightforward. This is a large space, it's a large building. To take this big building and break it down into smaller groups so that students have an adult that they get to know very well over the course of their 4 years, and can build connections with that student and with that family. So unlike at the elementary school, when there's one teacher to contact, we have students that might have 7 or 8 teachers to contact. So having that one point of contact for parents and build that significant connection with at least one adult. The HPT advisor sticks with the group. They stay together for all 4 years. As I mentioned, it's a good contact for parents, it's a good contact for students, but it's also a good contact for staff. So if I have a student in class, I might find who their HPT teacher is if they're having struggles, and connect with them and find ways to support them in that work. It's also a key role in our multi-tiered system of support. It helps to identify students that may be struggling early rather than later. So it meets every day, Wednesday and Thursday. We call extended HPT, and you heard the guys mention that. It's used for academic support. And what I found to be really interesting is that William mentioned the positive response from students around extended HPT. I've mentioned this before, but I have pizza with seniors over the course of the year, have lunch with all of them. And I typically ask them questions around how things are going. And one of the questions I've started asking is, what about this extended HPT thing? How's it going? And I continue to get lots of positive feedback. I was a little surprised at how positive the feedback was. I wasn't sure what I was going to get, but it was very positive, or it continues to be very positive. And I think one of the things that students appreciate about that is that they can, during that designated time during the day, if I'm struggling in math class, or if I have a question in math class, I don't have to come in either before school or after school. I can sign up to go to that teacher during the day and get the support that I need right here in school. So that is going very well, which is good because it's not without logistical issues. So if it wasn't going well, we would definitely look to revisit that. Also do grade checks in HPT, do some goal setting, do some career or long-term planning. Student-led conferences happen in HPT. I put attendance up there. It's not that we take attendance, we take attendance in HPT, but this is not about attendance. It's more about recognizing the fact that we've started to identify students or percentages of HPTs coming in and having attendance during the week. So we recognize students with or HPTs with the highest percentage of attendance over the course of the week. So last week, I can't remember if it was last week, it might have been 2 weeks ago, Mr. Galway calculates all the percentages of attendance for HPT, gets on the announcements, and does the weekly awards. We had 3, I think, 10th grade HPTs. It was 2 weeks ago that 100% attendance for the week. So that sort of thing has built some momentum, and I think it's had a positive impact. During the course of HPT, we also have some occasional class meetings. Student council meets once a month. I think Key Club meets approximately once a month, somewhere in there. National Honor Society will meet a couple times a year. They don't meet as often as the other ones. And the Unified Schools Club will meet when they have activities going on. So like they plan unified bocce or unified bowling or whatever those activities might be, they need to get together and have those conversations. We have, they meet every day. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. They meet every day. Monday, Tuesday, Friday, it's for 25 minutes. For extended HPT, it's for 40 minutes. So those are, that's the structure of HPT over the course of the week. It's not the same every day. It depends on whether it's extended or regular. A second goal, comparing our existing 9 to 12 curriculum with most recent state standards. This is specifically around ELA and science because they are up for a discussion and adoption this year. So looking at those specifically, connecting with middle school teachers to review continuum of district curriculum, revised curricular documents. This is what I mentioned earlier around health, PE, visual and performing arts, and math. Getting that information into our Atlas program so that everybody can see it. Utilizing our PLT time to review assessment data, adjust instruction as necessary, develop and implement common assessments for content area, and to review NWEA/MEA data and identify areas of need and strength. All of those things are currently happening. So there are conversations happening in the Science Network around science curriculum. There's conversations happening in performing arts, visual and performing arts around curricular documents and getting them into Alice. I had that conversation just the other day. And there's lots of conversation around the building, around common assessments and data, and adjusting instruction as we go along. I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this goal also aligns very, very well with the clarity for learning work that we've been doing across the district with our instructional coaches too. So that's a great. Third goal is pretty much straight about BAR and implementing it with the 9th graders, the BAR life practices that we're doing with the 10th and the 12th graders. BAR spreadsheet and or shared Google Docs to monitor student progress. So when we get together on Wednesdays to do our BAR meetings, we have a spreadsheet that we're able to look at and talk about students individually and how they're doing, interventions that have been tried, what the next steps might be, and be able to, if things aren't working, try something different to see that we can get them to work. Ensure that all staff are aware of how to implement the multi-tiered system of support. That is ongoing work. Streamline the process for the Community Connect meetings. and the sharing of information. So we have our bar meetings that are, I don't call them, bar calls them small block meetings, which is the group teachers that talk about students. If there's students that are struggling and identified as having a really hard time struggling, they get bumped up to what's a community connect meeting. That meeting involves guidance counselors, me, Mr. Galway, my assistant principal, Mr. Haylock, the dean of students, and depending upon any other resource we might need, we might call in Officer Ham to come in and meet with us as well. And we're able to have a conversation about those students and any interventions we might be able to provide outside of what a classroom teacher could provide. Looking to reinvent our Adopt a Senior program, that's going to happen with our 12th grade bar group. Utilize professional development time on Wednesdays to implement the MTSS practices, which again is an ongoing process and is currently happening. I think I covered those things. We did have a visit from our bar coach just a couple weeks ago, and she provided some really good feedback, not just because it wasn't just, hey, you're doing great feedback, but she gave us good feedback, things that we do different or do better, as well as things that we're doing well. So the visit was great, and she's coming back, I think in March, so we'll see her again. You've seen this slide before. It's a bar image of the bar slide. It's clear on my computer screen that isn't on the TV, so I'm going to move on. BAR, in particular, the full BAR program, Building Assets, Reducing Risks, is in place with ninth graders. As I mentioned, we have the three ninth grade teams. We have the program going on with 10th and 11th graders. We have maximized to the extent possible students that have teachers in common. It does not work for them to be on full team. Weekly small block meetings happening on Wednesdays. These are very structured meetings that look at data and identifying individual supports for students. Community Connect meetings, also very structured using the Google Sheets, discussing students with continuing needs, even after there's been interventions in the small block meeting. This is just some data that we give after calculating over the course of the year with the bar work that we're doing. 23-24, 15.6% of our ninth graders failed at least one class. 24-25, we have reduced that to 12.9%. Attendance rates, ninth grade in 23-24 was 91%. Last year, we bumped it up to 92%. 23-24 for 10th graders, it was 88%. Last year, we bumped it up to 91%. So I had a sense that attendance was improving. That confirms that. I also had a sense that we had fewer ninth graders failing classes, and that also confirmed that. So I thought that was pretty good data that I think I would come and share with you folks. And let's see what else we have. Usually get some questions around students taking dual enrollment classes. There's a language change around this, so I want to make sure I use the correct terminology. Students that are taking dual enrollment classes are taking classes here, but they're also enrolled in courses at a college, and they're taking a class with a professor, they're a college professor, earning credits at the college. Concurrent enrollment students are students that are in class here, being instructed by our teachers or a LRTC teacher, and earning college credit as well as high school credit. So we currently have 5 students that are enrolled in dual enrollment classes with a total of 6 different classes. So it appears we have 1 that's taking 2. And we have 124 students that are taking 312 concurrent enrollment courses. So that's 14 courses that are offered here at Levitt and 20 that are offered through LRTC that involve 7 post-secondary institutions, a lot of the UMaine campuses, as well as the community college and Bates College. Those courses include lots of things. I do not know which course it was at Bates. I didn't get that on there, so I apologize for that. But we have calculus at USM, Central Maine, psychology, history, forensics, physics with a lab, intro to literature, statistics, Spanish, French, English, art. There are 2 arts and 2 biologies. So those are the courses. Again, 14 of them here at Levitt, 20 of them at LRTC. So we have 124 students. Some are taking 1, some are taking 3. That's why the number is 312 with 124 students. I think that is my last slide. I'd be glad to. It is my last slide. So I'd be glad to take questions if you have them. Bree, oh, sorry, it's not
Yeah,
me.
we'll just, I think Bree was first.
Bree was first. With your dual enrollment and concurrent
Yep.
enrollment, students can begin doing that at what grade?
I believe it generally starts as 11th graders.
Your turn.
So I'm unfamiliar, what is the Adopt a Senior program at?
So, like I mentioned, we're trying to reinvigorate it. It used to be quite invigorated. What we do is we look at students, we look at seniors typically in the January-ish timeframe that maybe, I'm going to use the term at risk, I don't know what else to use, at risk of maybe not earning the credits they're going to need come June 7th or 8th or whatever the date is in June, and pair them up with an adult in the building to help to coach them up and encourage them to get those credits. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions regarding Anthony?
So on point of prime time, could you talk about how your approach to point of prime time has changed over time in response to academic achievement?
Yep. So when I started here in the fall of 2000, HPT was exceptionally structured. Like everybody will do this on Monday, everybody will do this on Tuesday, for the entire week. That didn't last very long. There was a lot of, it didn't fit. So there were some changes that have been made over time. Most recently, adaptions that have happened are the addition of, I should say, the addition of the extended HPT time, which I think we've been doing for, I don't want to put a number on it now, we've been doing it for a while. That was a specific response to students that were struggling academically and needed time during the day with their instructors to work on. Maybe it's just to get something done, but it may be that I missed a lesson and I need to sit down with somebody and go over it. That's the most recent changes to me.
So you've got a list of clubs that occasionally meet during point of prime time. Is that a comprehensive list? That's the full list of
That is
clubs
the list.
meet? And you mentioned that there's sort of a competition for attendance. Is attendance to point of prime time not compulsory?
It is compulsory. That's just the time of day we pick it. So, like, it just made sense because the groups are smaller to do it during that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, we're all set. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the technical delay.
All right. That takes us to revision of the superintendent of schools job description. Now, we have a motion.
Yes.
Bree, do we have a second? Kyle? This comes into play, so we wanted to emphasize that the superintendent can speak to the legislature on our behalf for certain school issues, and I believe the wording is there. I guess I'm looking, do you want to clarify that any more than that, or?
I think and I'm not going to remember the policy, but with the adoption of the policy last year around staff and political activity, I felt it didn't allow me to advocate on the board's behalf and the district needs with the legislature. So I think it's important to allow me to speak on those issues. And in general, they happen so fast when the legislature is in session that it's too quick to come back to the board to seek guidance. So that really was the goal, is to make sure that this district has a voice at the state and federal level for things that may impact. And I think lots of issues impact rural areas more so than city areas. And so having that voice, I think, Peter, you like to say all the time that the city people are loud and they get their voice in. And so I think if rural folks are not doing that same, then policy and laws end up not helping us rural people. So that's why it's there.
So we currently have a motion and a second to accept that Number 21, which I assume was added in there, which is a sentence advocate for schools districts' interests on legislative and policy matters at the state and federal levels. Does anybody have any questions, concerns they'd like to bring up on this? Anybody else? Anthony?
School boards across Maine adopt clear essential policies designed to protect the integrity of the public education system. Among the most crucial of these is the prohibition against using district time or resources to engage in political activity. When a superintendent seeks a special exemption from this very rule, even for something as seemingly benign as like answering questions from upcoming legislation, the board faces a critical choice: uphold the integrity of the policy or risk eroding the community's fundamental trust. The answer must be clear. No special exemption should be granted. The superintendent, as the district's highest ranking public employee, must be the model of adherence to the policy of neutrality. The core argument against granting this exemption lies in the principle of public trust. A school superintendent is the executive face of the district, and any action taken during work hours or using public resources is inherently imbued with the authority of the entire institution. While the intent may be purely informational, simply answering legislative inquiry, the perception quickly shifts from objective information to administrative endorsement. In the highly charged landscape of educational policy, utilizing a taxpayer-funded email account, office time, or support staff to communicate about a pending bill instantly blurs the necessary line between providing factual data and engaging in subtle political advocacy. The public must be assured that their tax dollars and their children's educational resources are used exclusively for teaching and administration, not for influencing the political process. Furthermore, granting an exemption based on the nature of the activity, answering a legislative question, creates an immediate and dangerous slippery slope. In the context of complex legislation, answering a question about the impact inevitably requires interpretation, prioritization of certain facts, and framing of the issue. Crucially, neither the superintendent nor any single school board member, including the board chair, has the authority to articulate the district's official stance on pending legislation unless the full board has formally debated and voted to adopt that opinion. When a superintendent details the projected costs or administrative burden of a bill, that communication ceases to be neutral information and becomes a persuasive instrument intended to influence a lawmaker or their staff without necessary board mandate. If the board permits this, they are effectively sanctioning the use of public resources for sophisticated, high-level lobbying, a function explicitly forbidden to maintain the district's nonpartisan status. Finally, the integrity of this district's policy hinges on consistent application. If a teacher is prohibited from using district email to share political content, and a principal is forbidden from conducting political fundraising on school property, the superintendent, the very individual charged with upholding these standards, cannot be elevated above them. Granting an exemption to the top administrator undermines the authority of the rule for every other employee below, sending a clear and cynical message: rules are flexible for convenience and status. Policy exists not to silence administrators and as private citizens, but to preserve the nonpartisan nature of the public office they hold. The superintendent is free, as is any citizen, to answer legislative questions on their own time, using private resources and outside the scope of salaried district duties. By denying a special exemption, the school board reinforces the foundational contract with its community that the district is a neutral institution dedicated solely to education and that no position, regardless of rank, is above the policies designed to protect the public trust. To compromise on this fundamental rule is to compromise the institution itself. I urge you to vote against this measure.
Thank you, Anthony. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to address at this current time? Joe?
I think as superintendent, it's not just the highest administrator, but also kind of the executive of our schools. The one employee that we really manage and is kind of an extension of our voice as a board. I think we should have a good relationship with the superintendent, and one that's trusting, and one that provides some judgment for the superintendent to be able to be nimble and allow for some level of advocacy on behalf of the board. And I can think of one great example, particularly the wastewater treatment plant, where we probably wouldn't be advancing that project right now had there not been interaction politically with our superintendent and our state legislature. We'd been in trouble. And I think that if we don't allow for the superintendent to be able to have a relationship with our state senator or representatives, there will be a real disconnect and a lack of voice. I think we will actually lose out on things that are quite valuable. So I would encourage us to allow the superintendent to change the job description like this, because I think it provides a direct benefit to us as a board and a school system.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else? All right, not seeing any. Oh, please, William.
We could always keep the policy, but have it so the board is CC'd in the email, so that way they can be able to see the information that's provided and keep both sides accountable.
Which would you like?
Not all communication are through email,
That's
so that's, but
But
I-
like through, like,
Yep.
have,
But providing the board
Yeah.
with updates, yep, that
yes,
makes sense.
what was information.
Sure, absolutely. I was actually thinking the same thing, that'd be in reports. That. Anybody else? Thank you. Alex?
I was just gonna second what you had mentioned about having it be reported back, what interaction you may or may not have had.
All right. That being said, all those in favor of the change to the job description? You all set? All those opposed? All right. Thank you. All right. At this time, that takes us to 10.3, discussion and consideration of policy committee first reading and, what's the word I'm using?
Acknowledgement.
Thank you. Acknowledgement of new policy ACDC, coordination of federal and state law. At this time, I would request a motion and a second for me to just give a very brief history and reading of it, and then we'll go from there.
We have two versions of the policy ACD, so
I
is the
will-
motion for one or
Well,
the
just
other?
motion to explain where we're at.
Okay.
I don't know, I just soon start talking, but I'm not sure if I can. Motion to basically permit me to talk for a second. Thank you, Kyle. A second? All right, Anthony. I don't really know how this will work, so I'm kind of stepping out of Robert's rules and going into Peter's rules just for a second here. Real quick, back in the spring of last year, the school board voted, most everybody here is very much aware of this, but I'm just making it clear and out front. The school board voted to direct the subcommittee on policy to bring back a recommendation around President Trump's executive order defining Title IX as original birth gender, male or female. This was passed and directed to the school finance committee, finance committee, policy committee. Through policy, has then took it up for a couple meetings. Some suggestions were made, modifications made, at which forth two recommendations came out of the policy committee. We have both of those recommendations in front of us. The first one, which is what I'll be looking to take a motion on this evening, is the requested policy by the school board. It is the policy that addresses the request made. It covers all aspects of it. The other policy is a slightly watered down version that will focus primarily on just athletic participation. We do have a third policy brought forward to us, policy option brought to us by a board member, which is very similar to our very first policy, but takes some of the wording out of it. I was going to read these in detail. I'm not sure that I need to at this point because we did print them out. Did everybody get a copy who is curious? Anybody unfamiliar, or would they like me to read them through? All right. What's up?
We have a copy of 2 two of them, but
Okay.
then what about the third one?
I didn't make a copy
Yep,
of it
I'll
because
ju-
it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't, but it's coming up, so. I'm gonna take a quick second. As I told the board, I'm gonna take this slow, so we try not to make any mistakes. So I'm just gonna read all three of them real quick. The first one, and this is the one that the policy committee came forward with to answer the request by the school board. It is the policy of the MSAD 52 Board of Directors to follow all state and federal laws applicable to schools, based upon executive orders issued by the President of the United States and statements made by the nation's highest law enforcement officer. The board understands that Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 requires that schools recognize only two sexes, biological male and biological female. The board further understands that Title IX is interpreted by the federal government requires the district to provide athletic opportunities and private spaces for students separated by biological sex. The board is committed to bringing the district into compliance with Title IX as interpreted by the President of the United States while complying with the Maine Human Rights Act, to the extent it does not conflict with federal law, and to providing a safe and welcoming environment for all students, regardless of their sexual identity. That was the first one. It came forward as the direction to the subcommittee was that review all policies that might be affected. It was decided that the easiest and most efficient way was to make a new policy that overrode all existing policies. The second one basically was the first, except we struck out the primary section. Did we rewrite it all, or just struck that out, right?
It's a little bit reworded
Okay,
just
so
to
I'll
make
rewrite it.
just the beginning
Yeah.
part. The end
So-
part's the same.
It is the policy of so this is the second one, which focuses primarily on athletics only. It is the policy of MSAD 52 Board of Directors to follow all state and federal laws applicable to schools based upon executive orders issued by the President of the United States and statements made by the nation's highest law enforcement officer. The board understands that Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 requires schools to, 1, recognize only two sexes, biological male and biological female, in athletics, and 2, provide athletic opportunities separated by biological sex. The board is committed to bringing the district in compliance with Title IX as interpreted by the President of the United States while complying with the Maine Human Rights Act, to the extent it does not conflict with the federal law, and providing a safe and welcoming environment for all students, regardless of their sexual identity. Those were the two brought forward by the subcommittee. We did have another one brought to us by a couple board members, and I would have addressed any of them that came forward. I have it here. So I'm not, if anybody was sent any of them, I would have addressed it this evening. So this is very similar to the first one, except it is a little different. Notwithstanding any language in this policy manual to the country, the majority of the Maine School District 52 School Board establishes the following policy. To ensure student privacy and safety, and in accordance with Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, MSAD 52 shall separate multiple occupancy bathrooms, locker rooms, and other sensitive areas by sex. No student of one sex shall access facilities designated for the use by students of the opposite sex. Single occupancy, gender-neutral options for sensitive spaces may be provided where feasible. Students of one sex shall not share sleeping accommodations with students of the opposite sex. To ensure student safety, fairness, and equal opportunity in athletics, the department shall separate certain athletic teams by sex. No student of one sex shall be allowed to play on a team designated for students of the opposite sex. In instances of intersex athletes, individualized accommodations will be made by the athletic director, superintendent, and guardians, then approved by the MSAD school board. For the purpose of this policy, sex shall mean biological sex. Those were the three policies sent to the board.
Point of information.
Yes.
Is football a sport that's separated by sex?
That is in relation to we're kind of going a gray area here, but so be it. That's part of the Title IX question. This whole policy is solely around sports where there's two options. For example, soccer, you have a male and female team. Title IX, if you only have one team, Title IX current exists says the other gender has to play on that team. For example, football, we do not have a female football team. So that means Title IX requires us to allow females to play on the football team. When I was in school here, field hockey, and this would still be the case, even with this policy, how I interpret it, field hockey only has a female team. So if a male wishes to play on the field hockey team, we have to allow that male to play on the field hockey team, even with this policy, because that is how we're that still has not changed under the Title IX rules. So that aspect of it, it really comes into play when there's two different divisions. If there's a male and a female team, or in most cases of cross-country and stuff like that, there's divisions, that's when this comes into play. So I don't want to get into too much discussion. I just wanted to kind of bring all the information out at this point that we have presented to us. I think I might have covered most of it, and then we should, at this point, I'm sorry, yes?
Sorry, the answer you just gave, Anthony, was that Peter's opinion?
That's
or is that
my opinion, but that's my understanding. I'm sorry, that is my opinion, but that's how I read it. I'm not sure, and that can be part of our discussion, but that's how I read it. Because we're following Title IX, and Title IX, that's the whole point of Title IX, to protect women in sports, to begin with anyways. So at this point, let's get into true discussion if we wish to. We have numerous options ahead of us at this point.
We need a motion.
Yeah, I'm going to request a motion to accept policy ACDC. And then if with a second, and if we do, then we can start making amendments to it.
Should you say which version?
Oh, version 1, because that is the one that the school board requested, is why I'm requesting that one. Not that I'm trying to walk the line here, folks. Because I'm concerned if I request a lot of, I don't want to open it up to numerous. So is there anybody wish to make a motion to accept ACDC version 1 that the school board committee put forward to meet the blah, blah, blah? Ashley?
Yes, motion and question. This opens.
This will be open. We're actually starting the procedure. This is the motion. Do I have a second?
Point of information. If we don't have a motion, are we through with this agenda item and we move on?
I do believe that that was my initial thought. I'm looking not to have motions on a lot of different, I don't want to try to have we accept one and then we wish to have a motion on one more restrictive or one more less restrictive. When it's wording on different motion, when the policy comes with a variety of different wordings, it becomes very hard. Financially, it's pretty simple. Under Robert's rules. I was reading this up on Robert's rules, and this is kind of a gray area in Robert's that doesn't happen very often. So I'm looking to take the most restrictive one presented by the subcommittee first, which we have a motion at this point.
Ashley, version 1, right?
Yep, Ashley's version 1. Do we have a second on that motion? I see you over there, Anthony. Is that a second, or is that, okay, so we have a second. So at this time, we have a motion and a second for the version which is the most restrictive provided by the school subcommittee. That is open at this point, for amendments to change it however you wish. Or discussion, or to vote, or how would we like to proceed? Anybody have any comments, questions? Are we all as confused as I am? Anthony, please.
This is a long statement.
That's fine.
As a preamble to why I'm going to make an amendment.
Yep, I understand.
And I'm sorry that it's long, but it kind of has to be. And before I begin, I just want to make one small correction to your opening statements. The President's executive order does not reinterpret Title IX. What he did was he rescinded the reinterpretation of Title IX by his predecessor. So it just said, it directed everybody to return to the wording of Title IX from 1972. So respectfully. I have serious concerns about policy ACDC, the options that came out of the policy committee. First, the mention of the presidential executive order is completely unnecessary and potentially damaging. It's unnecessary because, as a federal court recently affirmed just last week, when Congress passed Title IX in 1972, sex meant biological sex. The judge ruled that executive orders and federal agencies cannot unilaterally rewrite laws decades later to advance political agendas. Including the executive order is worse than merely unnecessary. It predicates our entire decision and policy on that order. This leaves the district vulnerable and would force us to change course if a future president issues another executive order similar to Biden's. This wording has the potential to needlessly fan the flames of partisan politics and create a legal trap for the board. Given legal counsel's vagaries with regard to the executive orders, one wonders why we continue to retain their services, but that question is for another day. The policies also unnecessarily invoke the Maine Human Rights Act. This act is not only irrelevant because federal law supersedes state law when simultaneous obedience is impossible, but its inclusion is legally problematic due to internal inconsistency and mutual exclusivity with Title IX. The Maine Human Rights Act contains a disparity clause that forbids policies creating a disparate impact on a protected class, including sex. However, the interpretation of the Maine Human Rights Act's protections for sex often conflicts with Title IX's primary purpose, protecting biological females in education. Specifically, the Maine Human Rights Act protects females as a class, but by allowing those who are not biologically female to intrude on female spaces and opportunities, the Maine Human Rights Act application fails to provide females with the necessary protections, thereby creating a disparate impact on the protected class of females itself. With regard to mutual exclusivity with Title IX, Title IX requires us to prevent discrimination based on sex, which means safeguarding female-only spaces for privacy and ensuring equal athletic opportunities. If we use the Maine Human Rights Act to justify policies that undermine these specific female-only protections, we will be in violation of Title IX and, in this climate, would likely be the target of federal prosecution. The ACDC policies coming out of committee have other significant problems. The second policy, which strikes out a fair amount of existing language, would cause the school to selectively abide by Title IX, which is legally disallowed. Title IX clearly states no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. This provision does not allow us to protect female athletes, but deny the same protection to females who don't play sports but wish to use the women's bathroom. To adopt a selective approach would be to invite a plethora of lawsuits. The first two of the ACDC options, which is now on the table, includes a statement that the district only recognized two sexes. While I believe this is factually accurate, it is unnecessary for the district to state when all we need to do is provide females with protections required by Title IX. Regardless of how it was intended, this language is needlessly insensitive and divisive. I also believe that placing the policy under ACD, educational philosophy, is inappropriate. It properly belongs under ACA, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, and affirmative action. This is fundamentally a legal issue about non-discrimination, not a philosophical one about values. Misclassification under ACD undermines the legal basis for the policy. The policy I propose is ACAE. It is a strong alternative. You will note that it avoids inflammatory philosophical statements, does not mention the executive orders or the Maine Human Rights Act, and is correctly situated in the appropriate section. It provides clear direction on what is to be done and the legal reasoning why, which is the hallmark of effective policy. Finally, I've learned that 2 law firms have offered their services pro bono to Maine women and parents of girls who wish to sue school districts for failing to protect them as required by Title IX. I believe that by adopting ACAE, we will offer the district the most robust protection from such litigation. And if anybody needs a copy of ACAE, I have several here. So I am making a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor to completely strike it out and replace it with adopting ACAE.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? I have a second from Alex. That takes us, right now, we're on discussion. For clarification, the current motion on the floor would strike the current first recommendation from the subcommittee and replace it with the wording under that Anthony has provided and is providing to the board here. Does anybody on, I see papers coming to my right. Does anybody on the left need the papers?
Yes.
Yep, so how many do we have? Do we have enough to go down the line?
I printed 9, I think.
I have one in front of me, so.
I can ask Evan.
You mind, yeah.
I'll share the document with you.
Evan, you want Evan to, or are you just doing it?
Oh, yeah, would it be easier? Yeah, sorry.
That would be great.
Thank you, Evan. All right, I am going to take a quick minute for people to digest what is in front of, does everybody at least have one between 2 of you? So let's take just 30 seconds or 40 seconds, look at it, and then we'll proceed with discussion.
Clarification about
Absolutely.
next steps and how to phrase if it's another motion or just discussion. That's all she was asking.
We are in discussion at this point.
Oh, can she make a motion?
We would prefer to settle, normally we like to settle one motion at a time.
Okay.
And one amendment at a time, sorry.
Right, amendment, yeah.
Perfect. And then do your motion.
Yeah, and then make a,
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
all right, so, anybody like to have discussion on the current amendment in front of us? ACAE, yes, Ashley.
I guess the language change, I won't make a motion, but I'll throw it out there, where it says single occupancy, gender neutral options for sensitive spaces may be provided where feasible. I would prefer that says will be provided. I think that it's feasible probably in every building at some point. I think most nursery rooms have a single occupancy building. I haven't been in every school, but I guess I don't like the word may.
Can you say that one more time, what you want to, I'm so sorry, Ashley.
Yeah, I speak a lot. So where it says single occupancy, gender neutral options for sensitive spaces may be provided, I prefer that says will be provided.
And also take out the word feasible.
So, any other questions? Yeah.
I mean, I probably have a lot of suggestions like you have just now on language towards that. If we approve this amendment moving forward, I think then we'll get to discussion around potential language changes if we do in fact approve this amendment. But before we get to that,
If anybody else wants, I'm sorry.
sure, I'll let you
If
handle
anybody,
those.
if anybody buys it.
Yeah. I guess, but before we get to a vote on this amendment, I just wanted to make a few points. I mean, I think being on the policy committee, we made the recommendation for ACDC for a couple of reasons. One, because inclusion, I think inclusion of the executive order language is somewhat critical to the policy. It's effectively the basis for the direction that the board provided to us, the policy committee, to create policy and make recommendations that would react to the president's executive order. And I think that that is a somewhat critical piece of it. And frankly, the fact that it predicates our decision on the order is, I think, precisely the point that we are doing this particularly because of this executive order, despite some assertions that somehow Title IX from 1972 is settled at this point, that interpretation is uniformly understood. I think you'll find, and I think we've had two of the biggest law firms in the state provide uniform recommendations that it is not settled, in fact. And I think that the executive order certainly directs us to do something, but it is also very much in conflict with the state law. And that executive order is not federal law, at least not right now. Will there be Supreme Court cases that make some decisions one way or the other? I'm sure there will be. In fact, I think there's some on the docket. I have not been following it very closely, but it's also because I am not an attorney either. And frankly, I'm not in a position to review arguments to the Supreme Court and make my own decisions here on exactly how those Supreme Court cases affect state law. I mean, that's why we have legal counsel, right? And frankly, we have one legal counsel that there's been a lot of accusations of bias. We went out and got a second opinion. It was the same opinion, right? By the two most significant law firms, school law firms in the state of Maine. So I think if the issue of the Title IX definitions from 1972 being some settled thing, it just doesn't make sense. There's too much conflict with state law right now, and I think inclusion of a statement about the executive order of the president in the policy is somewhat critical to it. Similarly, the Maine Human Rights Act reference is also important. I think the statement we're making about being a board that is attempting to follow state and federal law is important, because we are, I think. And when you have a situation that we do right now, which is an executive order that is in conflict with state law, and we are going to try to do our best to follow each of them, I think it's important that current kind of conflict is reflected in our policy. I would love to wait until this is settled, frankly, right? But we're past that at this point, right? We already decided to change our policy to move forward with this executive order. So how we do that, I think that the policy we put forward is, probably as close, in fact, I think version 2, which we can talk about later, we're not even talking about that right now, we're just talking about this proposed amendment. I think version 2 does a better job, but I'll save those comments for later. But I certainly do not think we should be trying to just assume Title IX is somehow settled, eliminate all references to the executive order, eliminate references to the Maine Human Rights Act. I think the change that has been proposed in this amendment is significantly different, and we should not be approving the amendment.
Thank you, Joe. Absolutely.
So I just want a couple things. So I'll ask one question about this proposed one. There's a statement about that the school department shall separate certain athletic teams by sex, but I don't know what certain teams those are. So I think that's a lack of guidance for the school folks, because I don't know what teams the board would intend if this became the policy. And then I just want to clarify a couple things, because this is not a sample policy that comes from Drummond and Woodsum. They don't endorse this policy, and I will say that when I called our legal counsel for assistance with this, he politely declined. So I told you that I got this from 70 and 73, but this is not, I mean, I did not get Drummond and Woodsum counsel in this, just so you know. And I'll just provide what Joe said. I think the goal in this, when I was talking with the superintendent in 73, was that if the policy included the conflicting legal guidance between the executive order and Maine Human Rights Act, that might provide the district with some political cover in terms of trying to sort out why we're doing this. in this, given the context of the legal guidance that we've received, that the board would be stating that they believe that the executive order is requiring this action. So it would provide some legal reasoning should we find ourselves with some kind of a challenge in that. So I think that was the intent of including the reference to both the executive order and the Maine Human Rights Act. With the recommitment that the Maine Human Rights Act is important, that all students are sort of provided a welcoming environment in the district regardless of their identity. So.
Thank you. You had a, William?
It was the students in one section not sleeping, the combination of the student opposite sex. I don't see why that's relevant.
Field trips, sporting events, stuff like, if you go overnight somewhere.
We can't hear when you guys talk like that.
Sorry. He asked why the overnight part would be included. And again, I'm speaking off the cuff, but I would believe it would be field trips, other excursions like that, where there is an overnight. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen on a rare occasion, would be my assumption. I saw Crystal first, and I'll get you over there. Crystal, Kyle, then Jenny.
Where does ACAE originate from? Who wrote that? Where does it?
I'm going to actually let Anthony answer that since it came
It comes
from
from the
him.
Maine Education Initiative, so it was actually written by an attorney, unlike the policy that was sent toward us, if Ms. Med is correct.
Thank you. Does that answer you all set? All right. Kyle?
So the 73 is the date?
Spruce Mountain, correct. And this is very similar. The very first district that passed a policy like this was SAD 70. And so this is very similar. It's not entirely like that, but I pulled those two because those are the two school boards that I knew had passed it. And so both of those policies are somewhat similar to this one. Like I didn't start from scratch. I asked for theirs and that's what
When
they
you
are.
say this one, I think it's important you highlight.
Sorry, you're right. ACDC version 1 is essentially, with some minor changes between 70 and 73, those two districts, that is the policy that they adopted.
And was that revised by us in the policy committee?
Very little revision to the 73 one, the Spruce Mountain one. There was a couple of different changes. I'd have to go back and look at what I got from SAD 70, but this one looks very similar to the 73 that passed 2 weeks ago in Spruce Mountain.
Yep. Jenny?
Superintendent, can you just clarify when you said you got legal counsel, you didn't say which, that
Sorry.
you sent it to?
Version 1 is the one
that you sent to?
I asked for assistance
Okay,
and was not provided any.
okay. Thank you.
So that's why I
Is it
relied
discussion
on
or
what
anything?
was given to me from
No, that's fine,
73.
she hadn't
No,
said
I'm
which
talking.
version.
It was version
she
1,
sent it.
yes, version 1.
Not about that. Bree?
So to clarify, 73, when they wrote theirs, did they have any legal,
I
We don't know
would
that.
defer to them, like you
Okay.
guys could reach out to them.
but follow up, so Anthony can answer this question if you give that to him, that ACAE is coming to us from the Maine Education Alliance, and he mentioned that it was written by another lawyer, and I'd like to know that lawyer.
Yep, absolutely. I'm sorry, I think, do you know Anthony?
I suspect it's Sam White.
Suspect.
Is it just him, is it a law firm? Like, is that just him, Sam Whiting law firm? I'm just curious.
You would have to ask the Maine Education Commission.
So you don't know?
Well, hold
like,
on.
who
Hey,
works
hey,
for
hold
some
on.
company?
Bree?
I don't know the name, so I was
Yeah.
just curious, so that I can go do my research, like, is it him himself? Or is there like, when we do drummers with some, we know like a specific lawyer? So I don't know his name, so I don't know how to look him up any further than that, other than, does he own his own business? So do I get it like that, or am I looking for a law firm?
So
Yeah, absolutely, because I think.
his name came across the district, or at least the first time I remember hearing that lawyer's name was when we were doing IJJ, right? Kyle, didn't you have sort of like a separate legal opinion from him in that? Yeah, so that's the first time I remember, was when we were doing IJJ. And I can't remember the law firm, I think it was in Massachusetts, is that correct?
I think it was a Whiting law firm.
That's all I want.
Yeah, so I think Maine and Massachusetts, yeah. I can't remember, it was Massachusetts family something, but that's the first time I remember, so that's how I know Sam Whiting.
But regardless of, you know, we have the policies in front of us, and if it does what we need, you assume. Alex?
So I had shared concerns with version 1 that Anthony had mentioned regarding the mention of the executive order. I'm looking at the motion that was made in June, and I'll read it. It says, "The motion was made by Ashley Mishu, seconded by myself, to instruct the superintendent to refer to policy committee by the next policy committee meeting. All policies to be amended to align with Title IX by recognizing sex distinctions in all applicable competitive sports and to ensure sex-based privacy options for all private spaces, such as but not limited to bathrooms and locker rooms." So the motion itself, the guidance that was given to the committee, did not include explicitly the executive order wording, and probably came up during discussion, but I think it was intentionally omitted when the motion was made. At least in my opinion, I did not want to include it in the motion, or wouldn't have included it in any motion in June. To me, this is really just a reaffirmation of Title IX. It's an act that is in many policies that are district-wide already and has served the district as guidance since its inception. So I think the intent was to, go by the 1972 interpretation of the act. So like I said, I did share the same concerns with Anthony as far as the inclusion in the version 1. I think that ACAE, I have a little bit of concern about the implementation of it just because of it not being from the committee, but I think it's a more pointed interpretation of the motion that was put forward.
I will, nobody wants to drag this out, but we can always send stuff back to the, nothing is ever set in stone. We'd rather do it right than wrong. But, so that is always, the current motion on the floor is the amendment by Anthony to replace ACDC version 1 with ACAE. Any other questions? Unless I can see if anybody who hasn't spoke yet wants to speak. And I caught you first, then you, Anthony.
Sure. Being on the policy committee, I just wanted to, and actually, someone that wasn't at the meeting when that motion was taken. I'm relying a lot on others that were here when the board made that motion to move forward with Title IX. From what I've been told, and particularly from Peter and others in policy, that was very much driven by Donald Trump's executive order to, certainly the conversation and the recommendation to policy was around that interpretation of Title IX. And I think I say that interpretation because our current policies right now are reflective of the interpretations of Title IX during his first administration. There's been discussion earlier about the Title IX policy under the Biden administration that people wanted to, we did not do that. Our school district did not move forward with Biden administration's Title IX recommendations, okay? Our Title IX policy, or our use of Title IX has been in alignment with every presidential administration up until the current one, right through to 2000. Department of Education recommendations, interpretations, it's all been the same. So to go back and try to say, well, we just want to go back to 1972, I don't think that's I think that's really missing a lot, right? Because we have been in compliance with Title IX right through to the year 2000 in the prior administration, not Joe Biden's, but the Donald Trump's first administration's Department of Education. We were in compliance with Title IX then. We are now talking about new interpretation by this administration with new executive orders that have redefined or reinterpreted Title IX. And now we're trying to figure out how to be compliant with that. And again, I think to not mention that current executive order by the president is to omit decades of Title IX interpretation. So.
Thank you, John. Anthony?
So I have a few points, and they're kind of scattered around because they're in response to things that folks have said. It's interesting to me that the policy that came forward from committee says the first sentence is that the school board is going to follow all laws. What other policies do we say that in? Are we going to say that in every single policy that has to do with legal issues? Do we say that in our special education policies? Do we say that in, I was on policy committee for 3 years, and I don't remember putting that sentence into every single policy that we put forward that was predicated on law. So I mean, that's a little strange. The superintendent said, you know, the one that my amendment is trying to override mentions the Maine Human Rights Act, and that would give us some kind of legal basis. Well, the policy that I am proposing also has a legal reference that would give us a legal basis and a foundation to stand on, and that is a very, very settled Title IX from 1972. So I with all respect to my learned colleague, Title IX was reinterpreted by the Biden administration. He did so very shortly before leaving office. It was immediately litigated, and it was overturned by a federal court. So to say that President Trump, in vacating that executive order, is reinterpreting Title IX, I suppose is technically correct because it is a reinterpretation. It's a reinterpretation saying we're going back to the original. So that's just facts. And I'm sorry that you haven't been aware of these or whatever, but that really is exactly how it goes. Now, with regarding to, I'm sorry, I can't quite make sense of my notes here, but the only other thing that I'll toss out there is that we are not instituting anything new. I'll just drop it there. I've had my chance to say my piece.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. Again, before you speak again, I don't see any new hands, so please again, William.
Underneath the 1962 Title IX, it omits the struggles of intersex people for being there because they have both, depending on the way it happens, intersex people have both XY and XX chromosomes. So where are they supposed to go to the bathroom as they are both genders? Since it specifically says that it's one, they're two separate, well they're both. Or to mention, underneath the since we're relying on the federal order, which is a flexible thing that switches between each administration. And also, all these, the Human Rights Act under Maine, because of the Constitution saying that education is a state power, not a federal power, by relying on this, you're relying on the federal one, which, but either, if we were to adopt any of these, we would be at risk of a lawsuit from either side. So I think we should wait till it settles down and not jump ahead by adopting this policy now.
Thank you very much. I'll speak up just for a quick second on this. I'm still torn on the subject. I have two primary concerns that I'm hoping can be addressed. To me, I'm a little concerned. One, with the current option in front of us, cleans up a little bit from what came out of the subcommittee, but also opens up some other areas that definitely would need to be cleaned up, and I'm not sure that it's at this point, I'm not sure that I would vote in favor of ACAE primarily, just because I'm not, I would like to see a little bit more from the subcommittee in it, from what I saw here. The primary areas that I have concern with is athletics, which I've spoken many times before, and the fairness and the safety of the competition of our female athletes. I do believe that the Maine Human Rights Act protects them just as well as every other group, and they need to be, I feel that they need to be protected and looked out for. And that's what my primary concern is fairness in our athletic programs. The second thing I have real concerns about with is privacy in our bathrooms and our locker rooms. But I'm not sure that that has or should or needs to be addressed in this policy. The only reason I might not vote for the more restrictive aspect of that is with the guarantee that we are looking as a district right now to make all of our bathrooms, regardless for all of our male, all of our female, and any other options out there, bathrooms more private in period. I don't care if it's 10 men in a bathroom or 10 women in a bathroom, they should all have their own areas to change in and everything. So that's why I'm leading. We're in hopes to make that happen regardless of what happens in this policy, just to make it all a more comfortable environment for everybody. So that's the only reason that I would probably lean away from either of the more restrictive, is with a guarantee that that's going to happen regardless without having to put it in policy. So I guess at this point, I'm not in favor of the more restricted option, simply because I'm a little concerned that that's going to open us up for significant more lawsuits than just the athletic option. And I'm, as Joe said here a second ago, I'm hoping the Supreme Court can give us more direction on that aspect within the next, 6 to 8 months. So anyways, that's where I kind of stand, which is wishy-washy as normal. Bree. I was happening to look in this way, sorry.
Do you want to go?
No, I called you.
Kyle hasn't spoken yet.
Kyle spoke.
Oh, you did?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I also will not be voting to move ACAE forward at this time, only because I do think it needs to go back to committee first. It needs to go through a lot more wordsmithing, as Ashley's already brought up some things that I also agree with, so I wouldn't be ready to pass it through without a lot of changes anyway, so I'd like to see it go through back to the subcommittee. Secondly, though, I want to also mention about version 1 and version 2 while I have the floor, and then I will maybe rest my peace. Some things that I don't think that we can assume, because you're asking different administrators, athletic directors, coaches, etc., to read a policy and then follow. It has to be explicitly said. So when we say in any policy, whether it's version 1, version 2, or version 3, to just say that males play on specific teams, females play on specific teams, that needs to be stated more specifically, right? So we can't just say that a male would play on a male sport. Well, which sports are the male sports and which sports are the female sports? Because we don't have all of our sports labeled that way. And none of these policies go into that specifically. They're too broad, is my point. And with that being said, the way it's written right now, it does bring up what a community member said about their child playing, as a female, playing on what is traditionally an all-male sports program. Right now, the way that I'm reading and interpreting it is that that student and others coming up, who currently are or will be coming up, would not be allowed to play football, field hockey, cheerleading, we've had a male on the cheerleading squad in recent years, right? So that the way that I am reading and interpreting it, so if the two of us and maybe others are reading and interpreting in different ways, it's not clear enough. And then we're putting it out there for coaches and admin, et cetera, to have to abide by and implement it, and there's still confusion everywhere. Athletic directors go, I don't know, because the policy doesn't actually explicitly say. So I would throw all of them back and not support any of them because they're still not clear enough. And I would like to see some revisions to them before I would stand and vote on any of them.
Thank you. Kyle?
Do we have a current policy right now that we're on any of it? Like, so I guess my question would be just because I know Joe mentioned Title IX reference that we've always conformed, but I don't know if there was a policy that actually.
We're doing some looking.
Yeah, no, we have a Title IX policy. We just don't have a policy that's specific to this. Like, Alex, when you read the motion from last spring, what was tricky for me was I couldn't find any of our policies that specifically mentioned single sex, male, female. So the charge was to revise, but I couldn't find what to revise. So that's why it sort of was like, all right, we just need an overarching one that then, right? So just to explain that in terms of the work that I did with the policy committee. But the Title IX policy that we have right now is ACAA, so it deals with harassment, sexual harassment, Title IX, all that stuff. So it's ACAA is what we have, and that's the policy. Joe's right. We got new guidance from the Biden administration, but it was right before the election. So, and Joe was still the chair, and I was like, why would we implement this and then have to potentially undo it? So we just didn't. We waited for the election. It went back to the policy that we had in place, so we didn't have to do anything. Lots of schools changed their policy, had to go back. We didn't, because I kind of figured this was going to happen. So that's the policy that deals with Title IX for the district.
Crystal? I thought I saw your hand raised.
It did. I guess I just want to say I appreciate you, Peter, for saying that it's still a bit of a struggle to sit here and talk about these things. I feel like this came from the policy committee. We did not have a recommendation because we knew that everybody was going to have plenty to offer on this one. I personally will vote no on all of them at any point. I really struggle with feeling like we are taking rights away from some of our students, and that is my biggest hang-up. I can't imagine being a parent and being told that my kid can't do something now. I'm sorry, I'm so angry. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Crystal. Joe?
I still have a lot to say about all this, but I'm going to try to continue to be focused on the amendment that's on the floor right now, which is just because even if we approve or disapprove this amendment, it just means we keep talking about one or we keep talking about the other, right? And I'm just going to make a couple points again about this amendment, because it was said that the ACDC, it was strange that we talked about following all state and federal laws. Why is that statement there? And I think the reason why that makes sense is because we're trying to highlight that we do want to follow state and federal laws, but they are currently in conflict. Or at least, maybe I shouldn't say that, but the current interpretation of federal law by the president via executive order is in conflict with state law. And we are trying to follow state laws, executive orders. We do want to follow those things, but it's not normally in conflict like this. And I think it's a critical point to make. Similarly, and I think Harry just really further made the point, I think the statement about Biden and his Title IX interpretations are completely meaningless to this conversation, because we are already in compliance with pre-Biden interpretations. we don't even need to talk about Biden's interpretation of Title IX because we never went along with it. We are still pre-Biden's interpretation, and it's not even worth discussing.
All right. Jenny, thank you.
So on the proposed policy that we're discussing, the amendment now, the CAE, I'm voting it down, but I feel that I'd like it to go back to policy with Bree. I feel that I'd like to have the policy committee really take the time, not that we didn't take the time, but to be able to have this one that kind of got sprung on us. And I would like to see it go back to policy and not rush it to say.
I just, it was brought to policy already. I think.
No, Anthony's.
No, I'm
No,
talking about
Anthony's was.
ACAE.
No,
Ashley brought it.
Yeah,
Ashley
Ashley
brought it.
already
Oh,
brought
okay.
ACAE to policy committee when we were going through this. So we already had considered it, and we continued to decide to make a recommendation for ACDC. But
Why was that?
I invoked Ashley's name, but.
Yeah, I know, and Ashley's going to clarify what I was about to clarify.
Okay, go ahead.
Please, Ashley.
I emailed a copy of it into the committee. We never printed it and actually reviewed it as a serious option, in my opinion. So I don't think it was really considered or not considered.
That's fair. We talked about it, but we didn't.
And I would like to see it go back to committee as well, but I would recommend that we hold a special meeting to review it so it doesn't continue to hold up our committee work.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I would just say that there are aspects of ACAE that if we went ahead with ACDC or ACDC2, whatever we want to call them, that I might want to see into it. So a blend, so there is that. So even if we vote this down, that doesn't mean that there might be some aspects of ACAE that we request to be reevaluated in ACDC, if the board chooses to go that way. So, because there are just a couple points in it that I never thought of until I saw it here. I'm going to go with Anthony first, because then you, Bree.
Again, a couple of things to address what my colleagues have brought up. Title IX does not allow for the discrimination on the basis of sex. So if a school has one football team, that team has to be able to field male and females. That has been the law of the land since Title IX. That's not up for debate, and it's not just an opinion. That's actually the way that it works. So, and we talked about this last spring. So, people need to understand that that's really not on the table. That removing those opportunities from young women in the district who want to play on our football team, or I think perhaps maybe the hockey team. I don't think we have girls hockey.
We
Oh,
do.
we do. Okay, great. That's just not an opportunity that's going to get lost. And I'd also like to voice, I'm not sure if it's a point of order, I suppose it might be. There was an opinion expressed that somebody's going to vote no on anything, on all of these policies. We have not finished discussion yet on all of the policies. And we're supposed to go into these deliberations with an open mind and be able to be listening to what people have to say. And so I'd just like to register a point of contention that someone has made up their mind completely on this entire set of policies without discussion actually having been completed.
I know, I'm just reminding you.
Yeah, no, I do either. All right, thank you, Anthony. Yes, please, Bree.
So, point of whatever you want to call it. Likewise, a fellow board member, you have probably already made up your mind. You
All
have
right,
brought
okay,
to
no,
us
hold on, we're
an
stopping at
opinion, so
Anthony, hold on.
Let me, can I?
No, and
I'll
no,
move on, I'll move on.
Anthony was out of order when he did it. I
Okay.
kind of was hoping that nobody would pursue it, so let's just move
Okay,
on.
well, it can be drawn out, but what I would like to say is if this goes back to subcommittee, I would like us to look at the line that William had a question about earlier. I don't think it needs to be in this particular policy. I wonder if that line belongs in, or if it is already, if we can look at another policy, because I'm not sure without taking the time, because I didn't do that beforehand, not knowing we were going to be talking about this, within the field trip. Specifically in that particular policy, I think it might live there already. And if it isn't, maybe it should live there, because William is correct. We're talking about bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports teams. Traditionally, not many of the sports teams do overnight trips, so why would this necessarily fit there? I'm not saying it's not an important thing to have, I just don't think that this is the policy where that line should live, but I think it might be already written elsewhere, so we should look for that. I also think that the opening statements and ACAE, because that is what we are talking about at the moment, since it's the amendment at the time, the first sentence as well can be scratched. It's not clear, let's just get right to the point. To ensure students' privacy and safety. So as it was already brought up prior to with the other ACDC ones of saying it is the policy of the board to follow same thing. We don't need to have all this extra verbiage at the beginning, so I would recommend that the subcommittee strike the first sentence as well and get right to what we do with policies. I'd also like to see us look at the first paragraph. As Peter, you also mentioned that we are looking to update and change and look at what it would be like to change our bathrooms in all of our schools. Do we even need to have policy then that says that we are going to have these single occupancy gender neutral options, because we're already working towards that. It is 2025. We need to make changes to our buildings in general. And finally, most of our policies have regulations that go with them as well. None of these come with an ACDCR or an ACAER to really understand how will we enforce any of these policies. When we say that a bathroom is going to be only for males or only for females, who's policing that? So what sort of regulations will this look like? When we say that only males can be on male sports teams, only females can be on female sports teams, how are we policing that? So what will be the regulations? And none of these policies come with that. So when this goes back to subcommittee, I'd also like to say that we need to look at whether or not any version, but this one specifically, since it seems like many want to send it back to subcommittee, can we also look at adding that as well?
Thank you.
I'd like to move to vote on the amendment.
Okay.
Is there?
What is this a?
Someone needs to second it.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And we need
Well, technically, we're now voting, you're basically going to close to cease discussion, move to call the question.
Call the question.
There you go, you're calling the question, we're going to second it, call the
Yeah,
question.
hang on, we gotta write it down.
Yep, there's no discussion.
Who seconded?
Jenny.
Jenny, thank you.
So there's no discussion on call the question. All those in favor of calling the question, please raise your hand. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's everybody, it's unanimous.
Oh, it was unanimous, thank
Yep.
you.
All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. This is, for clarification, what we're voting on is replacing ACDC version 1 with ACAE. Any questions on what we're voting on? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment? 3, I have,
I gotta get names.
you got Kyle, Alex, and Anthony.
Alex, thank you.
All those opposed?
And then the 2 students.
Yeah. All right, that takes us, the amendment is finished, so now we're still sitting with AC/DC. Joe?
I would like to amend ACDC version 1 that's on the floor right now, to strike it and put in ACDC version 2, as well as to direct the policy subcommittee to further review ACAE for incorporation of pertinent information.
Second?
Okay, just slow down.
more.
Yeah,
I'm so
absolutely.
sorry, Joe.
So the motion on the floor right now, if I'm correct.
Yes, you are.
Is to consider and acknowledge the first reading of ACDC version 1. And similar to the amendment before, I am suggesting we strike ACDC version 1 and insert ACDC version 2, as well as direct the policy subcommittee to consider ACAE and incorporate potential language that we feel is pertinent moving forward to the second reading. Remember, this is the first reading and acknowledgement. There's still a whole other meeting we have to go through, second reading for approval. There's some time in between where we can acknowledge our first reading, still go to policy committee and come back with revision. So that's what I'm suggesting. Is there a second?
I have a second.
Okay, so that's Joe. Joe motion and Peter was the second.
Kyle wishes to speak.
So
Oh,
can I
Kyle
just
wishes
make,
a third, okay.
can I just make sure that Gabby and I have the
Please.
language correct,
Thank you.
right? So
Sure.
I'm gonna read what I wrote down. So to amend version 1 by replacing it with version 2, and to direct the policy committee to consider language in ACAE and incorporate anything that might be pertinent to ACDC version 2. Does that, do we
Yes.
have that? Is that what you have?
Close.
Okay, we'll be able to fix it in the morning.
Yep.
Great, beautiful, thank you. And we had, Joe made the motion, Peter seconded.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
And I would assume that in this discussion, if it proceeds this way, we would evaluate the whole Title IX single sport type situation.
I
That we have
think-
concerns.
So what I remember is when we've sent a policy back, we're taking notes
Yeah.
on the discussion for when the committee looks at it again. Do you need to restart that?
All right, go.
So my understanding is that the policy committee will hear all this discussion, and then when it goes back to the committee, we'll consider all that discussion as it amends to then bring it here. That's what's happened in the past, and I'm looking at the policy chair. Does that sound right, Crystal? Okay. So can I just?
Absolutely, go for it.
So I will just say, based on comments from around girls playing football, the way this is written now, having heard that, I do think clarifying that, in my mind, version 2 does direct the school to separate. So I think that requires some more work if that's not really what the board intends. So I think that's something that needs some work. And so maybe a little bit more discussion on what is actually intended, I think would be helpful.
This evening, you mean?
Well, for the policy
Yeah.
committee to go back and talk about it.
Yeah. Joe? I don't think anybody.
I think it's important to say that the idea behind version 2 was to focus on the issue specifically in athletics and not necessarily not deal with the public space issue, but recognizing that it is possible for us to be in compliance with all state and federal laws, potentially, if we work on providing more private spaces that are perhaps gender neutral or private. The biggest complaints I'm hearing on the private spaces issue are like the complaints we heard tonight from parents, right? That there's people that are uncomfortable in these private spaces for one reason or another. And I think that what we've talked about in policy and sent that over to PTB and is currently in discussion in this RFQ to architects is an evaluation of our private spaces in the school district in an attempt to try to provide more privacy and hopefully resolve these issues without necessarily excluding people in some way. And I think that we had someone else from the public bring that exact issue up tonight about how we have perhaps better private spaces at the middle school than we do at the high school. Frankly, there's a whole accounting of this that I think would be helpful for an exercise to go through to really review our restrooms and private spaces in the school district and work on making that better. And I think rather than just throwing a big policy statement out there and forcing the district into a reactionary position to it, right? perhaps phase this in, if you will, and focus on athletics first and think about private spaces more thoroughly as we move forward. So that's really the basis, I think. Other people in policy may feel differently, but that's how I felt about version 2. And similarly, I'm not even 100% sure where the exact language for the athletics part came from.
I've just revised it.
Right.
Me.
But I think there's definitely room for more discussion around it, particularly around the issue of how we deal with incorporating the president's executive order and that Title IX interpretation into our athletics. Because I think the hardest part about this is you have a situation that is absolutely here tonight. Females that say want to play some football, right, and are good at it, and but we also don't want to necessarily have someone that is male or is identifying as female but was recently, had a lot of testosterone and they're recently changing, and then they're on the field hockey team and they're destroying people, right? Those two situations are very real narratives that exist out there, and I think that, like, how do we, like, resolve those before, Maine Human Rights Act, and before Title IX interpretation, there was, like, committee discussion, taking this case by case and looking at this from the standpoint of, like, more of a International Olympic Committee style of reviewing competitive advantage on a case-by-case basis. It's a very challenging thing to deal with, right? I think, I'm not going to say the International Olympic Committee is perfect, but dealing with the complexity of this matter on a case-by-case basis is probably, in my mind, the best way to go about it. But that's not where we're at. We can't just go pick that path, because we have the Maine Human Rights Act that says one thing on one side, and we have this Title IX interpretation on the other side. These are direct conflicts, and we're told by a board vote last spring that we want to move forward with Title IX as interpreted by the president, and this would be the way to do that. And I think that, again, focusing on athletics and putting the private spaces conversation down the road a little bit so we can review it and perhaps make improvements to privacy before we try to impose that kind of policy. So that's my logic behind version 2.
Thank you. So currently we have a motion on the floor, just for clarification, to replace ACDC version 1 with ACDC version 2. Technically, we also have a long incorporating, but that would be kind of more of the notes, incorporating any parts, bringing ACB or ACAE into the discussion. That's what our current motion on the floor is. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Alex?
So this is treated as a first reading for version 2, but if you bring it back to committee and then make changes to it, does it come back as another first reading? No, it would come back as second reading. But we can vote it down and send it back to committee for a new one if we wanted to. It's how it was. But and then it'd have to go to first reading. But it starts getting complicated. But technically, yes, we would send this back to committee to come back as a second reading. If the committee sent back something that the board was not happy with, they could choose to vote it down and send it back to be redone again, and then they could, It doesn't usually happen that way, but. Yeah, I was just curious because if changes are made.
But yeah, you quite often changes, and significant changes happen between first and second reading. That's not uncommon. Yeah. No, sometimes it's just a mistaken misspelling, but a lot of times it's some significant changes. Any other yes, Bree?
So I guess when Joe is saying that he wants to kind of maybe bring in some of the wording from ACAE into the revision for version 2, can we get some more clarification as to what he's thinking of? Or Anyone else, maybe?
Yeah, I'll let that go directly, then I'll go.
I'll say I'm not
first.
thinking of anything specifically right now.
Okay, so
But
are you
I'm
asking
hearing,
for
I'm
us
hearing a
to-
general board feeling that there's some language in ACAE that they may want to bring forward, and
Okay,
I'm
so we
just
should
giving
speak
it
that
back to the hands of the policy committee to consider. Yeah.
Anthony?
This policy is fatally flawed, right from the outset. It's titled Coordination of Federal and State Law. That's all federal and state law, and yet this policy only speaks to Title IX and the Maine Human Rights Act. I mean, that's just not very good policy. And my colleague doesn't give me any confidence that this policy protects us from creating a disparately affected group that is protected and yet not protected. Because it's saying we are creating special protections for female athletes, but not other females. You have to play sports to enjoy a private space based on your sex. Title IX is extremely explicit that that is simply disallowed. If we adopt a policy like that, we are going to get sued. We are absolutely going to get sued. And his discussion about how, having more private spaces in the bathrooms, we've heard from parents saying that the spaces that have been made fairly private with stalls are inadequate. Guys are climbing over the barriers intended to provide privacy to female students. So unless it's a separate room with floor-to-ceiling barriers, that's not going to work. It does not speak to that. So I will be voting against this.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Just quickly, I think if we want to avoid lawsuits, we should not be taking action on this until it gets settled. If that's the goal, is to avoid being sued from somebody for something, we should not be taking action on any of these policies. We should be waiting until it gets settled.
All right. We're going to go, I saw a hand over here, I believe. No longer, the hand has disappeared.
I was reaching.
Should I want to talk, Crystal?
Oh, you don't.
Then I'm going to see Jenny, and then Bree, and then probably you again, Anthony.
Just to clarify, was it me? Or
Yeah,
was it Bree?
yeah, no, you.
Alex, you said PTV was requesting for architecture designs for bathrooms.
It's being included in the RFQ process as a potential problem.
Bathrooms and locker rooms, right?
Yeah.
District-wide.
Go such.
Yeah, that
Bree?
was my question.
So I agree as well that we should not really move forward much, but that's probably not going to happen. So if these move forward, I would also like to recommend that the last sentence in the main the last paragraph of ACAE also be revised, which says, in instances of intersex athletes, individualized accommodations will be made by the AD superintendent and guardians and then approved by the MSAD 52 school board. I would not like to see that statement being brought into version 2. In order to allow a student to play in athletics, we don't do that already. We don't have anyone come before us ever saying, can I play this sport? And we don't meet often enough to be able to handle those situations as they need to come up. Like, as tryouts are happening, it might be our off week. And so we're asking certain students to have to wait on when they can get onto a school board agenda. And sometimes that might not even be the very next week. It could be a month later that they can't get to the school board to be approved so that they can play sports. And then they miss tryouts. And a lot of coaches, because it's fair, will not allow that child to play if they do not participate in the tryouts. So this part here, I don't want to approve whether or not someone should be able to play sports. We don't ask them that currently. We don't ask them to come stand before us to approve them to be part of drama club or P club or any other club. So I don't think that that needs to be part of a policy.
All set?
For now.
All right, cool, thank you. Anthony, you had your hand?
The idea that by waiting, we might avoid lawsuits is false. The lawsuits are possible now, as we were advised by legal firms last spring. If memory serves, they all said that. They all said, you can face litigation right now. We're voting on the amendment. I think the amendment is flawed, and I will not be supporting it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Before we finalize this, I'm just asking, Crystal, did you have is there anything that you would like clarity on as this has a chance of going back to you? Okay, just checking. That being said, at this point, I don't see any more discussion, so we are now going to vote on the amendment. The amendment stands that we are replacing policy ACDC version 1 with policy ACDC version 2, while taking into account any recommendations and so forth of the discussions this evening, which include ACAE. Is that basically what we agreed to? Yeah. Okay.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
We're voting to approve the amendment, accept the amendment, but not to.
We're not done.
Formally.
Yeah, then we have to vote to
adopt
accept it. Yeah, then we have to, yes, we still get another step. So all those in favor of the amendment? Alex, I'm gonna have to ask, are you voting yes or no?
Yes.
So
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So wait, Ashley, Joe, Peter,
Alex, oh, and Kyle.
Kyle,
We see you guys.
and I got both students, yeah, I
Yeah.
got you.
All those opposed? The balance.
Anthony, Jenny, Bree, Crystal.
Okay.
Okay.
So now,
Just an abstention?
no, that's
No.
everybody.
That was, okay.
No, that was everybody.
That's everybody. All right, now, that's the amendment has been accepted. So now we're going to vote on the policy. The policy currently stands as what you had in front of you as ACDC 2. Primarily, we are voting on policy ACDC 2, sending it back to subcommittee with recommendations to review it with information gathered this evening, including from policy ACAE. Any further discussion?
Does it need to be a motion or
No.
No, this
we are
is the
voting
original
on the
motion.
amended motion, so, yeah.
This is where we began. Seeing none. So, Alex.
Just for the record, I supported it just to send it back. I would hope for major change.
Absolutely. Go for it.
No, just for the benefit of policy committee discussion, I'd love to get more, like, what your opinion was on that, Alex.
And I think anybody who wants to send commentary to the committee, right?
Certainly
Yeah,
make
that
it
would be
easier.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have a certain aspect you'd like addressed,
Yeah.
send it to. And for the record, the policy committee meeting, when it will be is a public forum, just so everybody knows.
As is every committee.
As is every subcommittee and committee meeting.
For some.
Yes, it is a public meeting, not a public forum. Very good, thank you.
Thank you. That'd be okay.
So, anyways, We are at the point where we're taking, I see no further discussion. All those in favor of the current policy as it stands being sent back, which is
So-
AC/DC version 2 primarily.
As amended. Motion 1 as amended. So the
Motion
ori-
1, yes.
So the original motion was for AC/DC version 1. We've
Mhm.
amended it to version 2,
AC/DC
ACA,
2.
blah, blah, blah. So it's the motion as amended.
Any questions? We all know what we're doing? All right, all those in favor?
William, are you yes or no?
I don't see.
Okay. So I just want to make sure we have your thing. Okay, Peter, Joe, Ashley, Jen.
You all set?
Yes.
All those opposed?
Crystal, Bree, Anthony.
All right. We'll leave that to the subcommittee to decide when they want to address it.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, you guys stuck it out. Appreciate it.
Ooh, we might have to extend tonight.
I hope not.
It'll be close. All right. 10.4. No, we have an executive.
I know.
10.4, consideration and approval of the Finance Committee recommendation for 2 additional pre-K special education ed tech 3 positions to be paid from state pre-K special education funding. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Oh, look at them go. We
Where are we
have
going?
Bree
Just
and
call it. Bree, who had the second?
Crystal.
Crystal?
All right, any discussion? This was all explained to us earlier as well. Seeing none, all those,
Yeah, I sent an email, but let me just say out loud, this is not the last time you're likely going to see something rushed like this that's specific to pre-K, because we have to have an IEP meeting, if we need staff that comes out of that, we've got to send it to the state. They've got to approve it. Once we get the approval, then I need you guys to do it. So anytime we can do it like quick like this, because then we can advertise and start getting it. So I'm just hoping that, I'll try and keep you informed, but it just moved quickly this time because the approval came in yesterday.
And because it's pre-K, it's paid for.
And it's pre-K and it's state, it's not our budget, so it's the state's budget, so that's why it also, like, there's not as much consideration that has to happen.
Anthony.
I just want to voice some concern. I'm going to support this, but I just want to voice some concern that, that for now, these are all paid for by the state. We know that the state is pretty good at withdrawing funds. And so I would caution us to think of these as permanent positions until the state can give us more confidence that that money is going to be permanent.
Totally agree. However, if these students were our current students in K through 12, and we needed an additional ed tech, we would be doing the same process. It just would be, we would have to reduce spending in other parts of the budget to pay for it.
Yep, no, we understand.
Yeah.
So, all right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposal, of the motion? It looks to be unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to an executive session. Do I have a motion to enter the
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Jenny and Bree and Jenny, actually, technically. We going to the same room with the...
Yeah, we'll go right there.
We're
We
going
gotta
to the-
vote. We gotta vote.
Oh, hold on. All those in favor of going into executive session?
Can you guys vote on the executive
Hey.
session? Thank you. Okay.
Unanimous. We're going to 142, folks, PTV was.